Welcome to day 2 of Cathay Week. We're going to be talking about a full, in-depth breakdown of the Arcane Journal. We've both had a chance to play some games with the army now, both super hyped. I am joined by Tom Carley, Team England, and the man I think is most excited about Cathay out of everyone that I know. How long have you had a Cathay army on, built and painted? I think it's been a good few months.
Well, on the back burner, it's been about 3 years. But it's been one of those armies which I pick up, paint a unit of, something comes out and get distracted, because it was originally an Empire army, and I just couldn't be asked with playing Empire. So it's been about 2 years off and on. Seriously, it's been about 8 months.
Fantastic, yeah. Really lovely models. What I'll do is I'll put some of those pictures in post so you can have a look at the fantastic painting that Tom does. Because not only is Tom a great player, a great modeler, a great painter, he also does run a 3D printing company, and I feel like, given as you're my guest, I should probably do you the favour of plugging that. So do you want to tell people where they can find your stuff if they want Cathay?
Yeah, so UK resin print. Unfortunately, we don't stock any Cathay right now, although we are open to doing custom models. It's just a matter of the sculptors and designers. Oh, sorry, Ed.
That's okay.
Start again. So yeah, it's UK resin print. So unfortunately, none of the sculptors and designers right now have Cathay on their lines, but it is lined up. We've got a very cool Cathay-inspired Dark Elf army from Lost Kingdom. But yeah, if you need anything 3D printed, come to us. Also a sponsor of Team England as well, so you're helping the team out.
Absolutely. And there will be a link in the description there if you do want to find the website without having to do something difficult like typing. Fantastic. So, how hype are you for this book?
Oh man, it's amazing. It's so good.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, it's small, but it's powerful. It's very liquid, the army. It's so good.
You got me
Very
with that
happy.
one. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. There's a lot of really good stuff in here, some really fun stuff, some really flavourful stuff. There's some stuff that's maybe a little bit overtuned, which we can get to. But across the whole book, I think it's really fun. I think they've done well with what it is. Obviously, when you've got a channel, people like to whisper in your ear things that they think might be coming. Whether or not those end up being true is very hit or miss. And I heard this book described for a while as somewhere between Warriors of Chaos and High Elves. And I think the more I look at it, the more I'm like, you know what? I don't disagree. It doesn't help that they've literally lifted rules from both of those armies. And just gone, well, here's the Warriors of Chaos, but here's the High Elf bit.
If we're going to talk about lifted rules, we're going to get to the artillery bit, and people will know me as a Chaos Dwarf aficionado, and I'm going to get quite salty for about 10 minutes.
That's all
if we're going to talk about lifted rules.
So's everyone else when we look at the cannons, so that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But with that sort of painting the scene, let's get on to the actual rules themselves. So starting off, we've got the Grand Cathay army list, and honestly, there's more stuff here than I was expecting them to be. I would like more models, but they have teased that there's going to be a second Arcane Journal coming with the Miao Ying model before the end of the year, so maybe we'll see in that, in fact, I'm almost 100% certain with that we will see an increase in number of units you're able to field, even if it's just sort of upgrades of, for example, the Jade Warriors or the Jade Lancers in some way, or some
well,
sort
if we
of
take
bash.
If we take Total Warhammer 3 as the framework, which it is in many ways because the articles have confirmed it,
Sure.
Miao Ying is very much behind the Crane Gunners, the Iron Hail Gunners, all of these things. So I can see us getting the missing piece to this journal, which is ranged infantry.
I hope so. I think for me, my expectation, just in terms of like the logistics, when Games Workshop releases an army, they typically do, here's a chunk of models, and then 2 or 3 years later they go, here's wave 2, here's the other half of the models. So I'm hopeful for it, but I'm not expecting it. But I'd be very pleased to be wrong. So, starting off in characters, standard 50%, you can have 0 to 1 Cathayan Dragon per 1,000 points. Isn't that interesting?
I know, we've got a brand new unit type there. And I'm just going to say this right now.
Yep.
I really, really hope we never get a generic Cathayan Dragon stat line. In the same regard as I really, really hope in 40k we never get Primarch as a stat line and build your own.
So I hear what you're saying.
That they are specific.
I hear what you're saying. I think it is basically a guarantee that we get a generic dragon stat line in the next Arcane Journal.
Oh, I know. Yeah, they're even leaving 2 out of it. They're leaving 2 of the Dragon Children unnamed so that you can do your own Build-A-Bear army. They've said as much in the articles. So yeah, it's cool. I like that we've got it for now, and per 1,000 points. Woo! I'm going to be running 2 in 6 months.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. And I like how that's theoretically a limit, but in reality not a limit, because they will take up 50% of your points per 1,000 points to run them. So it's the classic, this is technically capped, but it's not really capped. You can run as many of them as you have the points in your slot to do so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right now we've just got Miao Ying, who is...
I was just going to say, there are a lot of characters here as well, which is really nice. Like,
more than I thought.
for an army limits that's so small,
Yeah.
that we've got so few models, we have a lot of flexibility in the character slots here.
Yeah, absolutely. Which makes sense, because this is very much a sort of Hero Hammer edition. So having that flexibility and multiple characters to build around, I think with the army would struggle more if it had less choice here. Then we've got 0 to 1 Shigengan Lord or Lord Magistrate per 1,000 points. And that, I think, is interesting, because they are very different. Obviously, we'll get to the units more, but you've got, your Lord on a ridden monster, or your sort of like halfway character that's kind of okay at not much, but can ride a balloon.
I mean, the Lord Magistrate, fluff-wise, he runs the cities and stuff like that, and the Shigengan Lords run the armies, so I understand the 2 different paths there. But Lord Magistrate's stat line basically says 100 points of magic items and a balloon. Which,
Yeah, I was going to say, because I don't see much reason to take the Magistrate over the Strategist, that was it, because that's the sort of Lord and Hero version. But yes, no, it's a very good point. If you want to go more magic items on your character balloons, then that's the way to do so. But yeah, so this is not particularly limiting. You can only take 2 Lord Magistrates if you want to go 2 expensive balloons, but you'll probably struggle to want to run more than 2 of either of those, I would think. Then we've got Shigengan, Gatemasters, Gatekeepers, and Strategists uncapped, and this is just your sort of general hero level characters. Although the Gatemaster is, I would say, you're like somewhere between hero and lord level character. It's a little bit more impressive than just the generic gatekeeper. It's fine. I've seen people kind of losing their mind a little bit because they're weapon skill 7, and I was like, okay, sure, you can pay 100 and something points for 3 attacks at strength 5 AP 1 on the charge with a lance. That's probably not as exciting as people are making it out to be. That's not the thing that maybe people need to be concerned about.
Well, there is a tech that I've looked at immediately off of this, off the Gatemaster.
All right.
And you know how everyone giggles at expensive magic items?
Yeah.
This man is your carrier for them.
Okay.
Because he costs 80 points,
Sure.
You can take 100 points of magic items, and you don't really care. So yeah, throw an Ogre Blade on him. See what happens. Throw the monkey staff on him. But yeah, there is stuff to him. But I would say the Gatekeepers and Gatemasters, you're probably going to see the least out of all of these characters.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Moving on to core, we've got 25% of your army points value must be spent on Jade Warriors, and then 0 to 1 unit of Jade Lancers per 1,000 points as core. This is where we start to see the limited unit roster really kick in, because we've got Warriors, we've got Warriors in a detachment, and then we've got a small number of Jade Lancers as your core choices. So there's not really going to be much flexibility in terms of armies for what you're taking there.
No, your core is going to be, do I take 2 units of Lancers and 1 Warriors?
Yep.
Or do I take 2 units of Warriors or 1 Lancers?
I have been leaning towards 1 unit of Lancers, and then Warriors, and then Detachment Warriors to keep the drop slow, but I'm sure there's at least 3 permutations that we can make with these 2 different units. Fantastic. All right, and then special up to 50% as normal. Jade Lancers, 0 to 3 War Machines per 1,000 points. So again, that's the classic. This is technically capped, but it's not really. Then we've got, if your general is a Shigengan Lord or Shigengan, 0 to 1 Cathan Sentinel may be taken as a special choice. And then if the general is a Lord Magistrate or Strategist, 0 to 1 Sky Lantern may be taken as a special choice. And that, to me, makes me go, oh, it's... that the more important one here, I think, is the Shigengan Lord, because the Cathan Sentinels are so expensive that if you want to go for a lot of those, you can only fit 2 in rare no matter what upgrades you go for. So getting that 3rd one into special means that you can have more of a Sentinel themed army, whereas 135 points, you can already fit a lot of lanterns into rare.
Yeah, I'm having one of those moments where my brain's just gone, oh my god, because I didn't read this properly the first time. I didn't read that line about the Shigengan Lord allowing Sentinels a special.
Yeah.
And my brain is now moving a million miles an hour because I've just realised I can take 2 of the expensive ones.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Lovely. Looking forward to talking about those ones. I'm a big fan of the Sentinels, and I think while they're not the sort of thing that makes you immediately jump out your seat, I think they're genuinely very worth looking at. They're a well-balanced monster, I think, is how I describe them.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then rare, the 2 things that you can take if you've got the general in special, you can have Sky Lanterns, you can have Cathay Sentinels in 25% of your rare. So pretty much as I would expect there, all makes sense. Then we've got on the side, we've got the classic, you can up to 20% of your points on mercenaries. Are mercenaries normally 25%, or am I talking at my backside there? I think that might be standard.
I'm not sure, but I do think in this list that 20% of mercenaries is something that we will end up leaning on a little bit.
Yes.
Because you can get a lot of flexibility. Right now, we haven't got that much.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, I feel like you're going to want to fill some gaps with those mercenaries.
Given that the army roster is so limited, mercenaries become a more interesting value add, I think. And it depends whether or not your play group or your tournament organizer allows them. But, if they do, something to dig into a little bit more than High Elves, where you've got 1 million units. And then finally, allies. Obviously, basically nowhere uses allies, so I'm more just mentioning this because the way that they've got it, I think, is interesting. So you can go with as an ally, you can go with any Grand Cathay Army of Infamy composition list, which obviously we haven't got any yet, but we know there's a journal coming, so that's expected. Then you can go, here's all of the other things, Dwarves, Empire, Bretts, Wood Elves, and High Elves, and then also, down in the little box, we've got Cathayan Allies, which is armies which are, taken from the Dwarf, Empire, Bretonnian army, and Wood Elves and High Elves can take them as allies themselves. So they've added in some backwards compatibility for allies, which is cool. It's nice.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And just one thing, with this being a grand army as well, with any Arcanes of Infamy that Arcane journals that we get with Armies of Infamy that are coming out, we're going to see a lot of units that say can be taken in Grand Army. So this list is going to get expanded on massively as time goes on.
True. Over to the Battle Standard Bearers, as standard, it's the Gatekeepers that can take them. It's a little bit of a shame that we can't have them on Shigengans. I'd love to, one of my favourite things is to have a tanky character flying around, bringing loads of combat res because they're a BSB with a war banner. But, you know what? That's something that I think in 5 to 6 months' time, when we see the Arcane journals, one of them probably will allow us to put a BSB on a Shigengan. I hope. We'll see.
I want a BSB on a balloon, personally. But that's just me.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't even have a banner. I'd just paint like a strip all the way up the balloon in a different colour.
Is it not a flavour fail that they can't be the BSB, or in fact have to be the BSB? Because if your general's on that, you're like, okay, cool, I can see him all the time.
Now, I hear what you're saying, but keep in mind that the magistrates and strategists do have a rule that makes them kind of a BSB. In a way.
This is true.
So, it comes out in the wash. But let's move on to see what that actually looks like. We've got Miao Ying, and nobody wants to talk about Miao Ying. Let's just skip right past. To the rules about Cathayan dragons, because if we're going to talk about the Cathayan dragon, we do need to understand how they work. And there's a lot of words here, and it's pretty easy to understand. So there's a little bit of text here saying that you start it in either form. So you don't have to start it in human form, you can start it in dragon form, or vice versa. Are you playing against, another Cathayan army that might be shooting you with 6 cannonballs in turn 1? If you are, maybe you put Miao Ying as a human inside a unit of Jade Warriors. That might be the way to go. Or are you thinking, actually, my opponent's got Infernal Puppet, I'm going to really struggle to cast some spells. It would be good if I just had a dragon to go and try and eat that wizard. So you can start as you wish, which is nice. Human form. When in human form, they are heavy infantry. There we go, jobs are good. They'll have skirmish as their unit type, because the classic character infantry rules, even though it is on a massive base. Is it a 50 by 50 mil base for the...
It is, yeah. And I was shocked that they didn't get Lona with that base. I was really expecting, because she's got lightning coming up around her and all sorts, so the fact that she joined units, very cool.
Yeah. I think it makes sense, right? Because you've got your general on foot surrounded by their troops, but I can see why you'd expect it to not be able to. Then when you're in a dragon, you're a behemoth, and then you're close order, all of the stuff that we know there. However, while in dragon form, Cathayan dragons do not have the inspiring presence rule, even if they're your general. I think that's interesting.
I mean, you don't need it.
You've got a pretty good
You
leadership
really
across
don't
the board.
care.
Yeah.
You know? Oh no, I'm not leadership 10, I'm leadership 9 now. Oh.
Yes. Yeah. That is very much how that's going to work. So then we've got Death of the Dragon. This is where it starts to get a little bit more complex, which is when a Cathayan dragon loses a wound, the wound is lost from both of the characteristic profiles. So Miao Ying, we'll see in a second, has 7 wounds on both the profiles, which is just making it nice and simple in terms of translating between the two. The first time that the dragon is reduced to 0 wounds while in their dragon form, they immediately revert to human form and recover D3 lost wounds. When they've done that, they can't go back to dragon form, and if they die while in human form, even if they haven't died in the dragon form, they are removed from player's casualty. This is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of cool. It's effectively you have an 8 to 10 wound dragon, but as we're about to find out, it's actually quite a lot more than 8 to 10 wounds.
Yeah, there is that. There is that. I don't know that they needed to make it so that when the dragon dies, you get to just be a human for no punishment, other than, oh, I hope I've left my model somewhere that I can't then just immediately be shot off the board.
So these are supposed to be almost immortal, almost eternal beings. Their parents are, in fact, those things. And from a game design perspective, would you prefer this, or would you prefer 3 upward?
Neither. Absolutely not. Neither. I think.
But do you know what I mean? To make something unkillable, I kind of prefer this over giving them, oh, you just don't get to wound it.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I think they could have put this in and just not added that last bit where it's, you know, if you die in dragon form, you become a human. I think that would have been fine. But I'm not sure it's going to cause major issues. As you'll see, they're not the tankiest dragons. They're you know, it's okay, but it's not as tanky as it could be outside of the next rule, transformation. So, in addition, when transforming when reduced to 0 wounds, you can make transform from human to dragon or vice versa during the command subphase of any of their turns. That's a really interesting timing, because the next bit, you get movement.
Yeah. You can't charge if you do it, but
sure.
Yeah, you can still zip about with movement, fly as a dragon, and yeah.
So
they've put enough limitations on this that you can't abuse it, but it's still very good.
Yes. So the way that it works, you put the model within 6 inches of the model that's currently there. So if you've got the dragon base, you've got a really big circle. If you've got if you've got Miao Ying, the actual infantry model on the table, it's a little bit less of a bubble that you can fit in. But again, it's within. It's not wholly within. So again, that gives you quite a long range for you to mess around with. And it's also kind of like TMP, Travel Mystical Pathways, in that it is free movement where you can change your facing, you can be sort of wherever you need to be, so it's a huge amount of flexibility there. It's got to be within 6 of the model, it's got to be not within 1 inch of any friendly models, and it's not got to be not within 3 inches of any enemy models. So that is pretty flexible, honestly. It's hard for your opponent to zone you out with 3-inch bubbles.
And then you get to TMP again afterwards, because she can cast Elementalism. Yay!
That's true. I'd forgotten that. Okay, cool. Well, that's pretty interesting. But once it's been placed, when the Cathayan dragon transforms in this way, it immediately recovers D3 lost wounds. Huh. So it just heals.
That's so dumb that's not capped.
Yeah, it just
so dumb.
It just heals, and I was like, oh, okay. When I heard this initially, I was like, oh, okay. So when you go from small to big, you heal some wounds. No, you just heal both ways.
You heal both ways.
Yeah.
It means you've got 6. If you're in a game where you can't actively go out with your dragon in an aggressive way, and you're just getting peppered, you just keep switching.
Yeah.
And every turn you're getting D3 wounds back, and there's certain armies that, if they're not packing multi-wound weapons, are going to struggle against this.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't charge after you've transformed, which makes sense, as you pointed out. It counts as having moved for the purpose of shooting, but can otherwise move normally during the remaining move subphase. So you can't jump into a unit of infantry, but you can transform, move the unit of infantry, and then just move into the unit there.
Yeah, and
No.
the cool thing about this is you get a free pop out as well. You come straight out of the unit, so if you do end up in a dangerous combat as Miao Ying, you just go, oh, okay, cool, I don't want to be there, I'm going to transform out of the combat.
Yeah, which is, given that you've got 7 wounds, it's going to be really hard to just one round you in combat. So say you're in a unit of Jade Warriors, the charge comes in, you know, you've been outpositioned, they've managed to get like a cavalry Death Star, for example. You take a couple of wounds because they've got some Chaos Knights with Lancers that can attack into Miao Ying, and you're like, oh, well, this sucks. This unit's going to get ground down over a couple of turns, and then I break and flee, and I get caught and run down. There's no healing from being run down. That's just, you know, dead for a dragon. Well, what if I don't want to be here? What if I just go, actually, I'm going to transform into a dragon, and then I'm no longer in the threat range?
Yeah, and my base is now a quarter of the size it once was, a sixth of the size it once was.
Or vice versa, depending which way you were going. I was thinking of going from small to big, but yeah, there's a lot of flexibility there.
I haven't used this yet in the test games that I've done. I'm quite excited to. Yeah. It seems like it's going to be a very difficult piece to run, but then once you figure out everything and you get the stars to align and you really know how this piece works, I think you're going to be one of the scariest players at tournaments.
Cool. Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of skill to it. I think that the baseline of using it is actually going to be pretty, like, not too bad. But I agree. Once you've got it cracked, I think there's going to be a lot of plays that are going to be very difficult to play around with. It's going to be nigh impossible to lock this thing down in melee, so we're going to have to see. And given that it's a level 4 wizard, it's going to be very difficult to kill this thing at range. You better hope that you're packing artillery. That's going to be the way to deal with it, I think. But yeah, so
she makes the Green Knight look like a scrub.
She's pretty good. I don't know if I'd necessarily say makes the Green Knight look like a scrub, but she's up there with the Green Knight in terms of things that I'm like, when I see it on the other side of the table, I'm like, oh boy, let's think about this one. Let's see how we're going to work about that. So let's talk about Miao Ying specifically, the only Cathayan dragon for now. Starts off with a 4-inch move, fairly standard for infantry. Weapon skill 7 in her caster form, so great, love that for us. But
that is a theme. That is a theme across the book. That everything is about 2 points weapon skill higher character-wise.
Yeah,
which I like.
That's fair. Strength and toughness 4, 7 wounds, which is hilarious. Initiative 7, 4 attacks, leadership 10. And only 485 points. That feels pretty good for what you're getting here. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this in a way where I think she's OP. We've been glazing. We've been saying that this is the way that these rules interact is really good. I actually don't think she's necessarily going to be a problem. I think she's probably about right in terms of what I'd expect to see for a special character. Like if you look at something like Golrock, who is a dragon on his own. So you don't get to put like layered saves on top there. You don't get to add additional stuff. Obviously, both come with ward save, but there's limited options or there's like limited additional stats. This is just enough to push you over that you don't just get cannoned by 3 Empire cannons and go, oh, my game's over then, I guess, because my really expensive caster dragon's dead. Like this feels good to use, I think.
I think the key here is understanding that this is not the fightiest dragon in the game. Yes. It's not the most catty dragon in the game, but it's one of the hardest ones to actually kill.
Well, I don't know about not being the most casty dragon. Well, not when you're in the dragon form, actually, sorry, to be fair. But if you're willing to move into the human form, I think you may have the ultimate blaster. She is.
That's what I mean. It's the flexibility. It's the flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so dragon form, goes up to move 8, so plus 2 inches on normal dragons, which is interesting. And then just to reference the fly move, which is, wait a second. Oh yeah, there we go. Fly 9. I was like, hold on, she doesn't have fly. I've missed that. Anyway,
she doesn't fly. What? No, yeah, she does.
So
I had the same moment.
Falconhorn, eat your heart out, because movement 8 still going to be really good, even if she loses the ability to fly. Goes up to weapon skill 8, which is pretty nice. It means that you're going to be hitting those other lords on 3s most of the time. Ballistic skill goes down to 3. Terrible news. Absolutely awful. Can't believe.
I know. Ugh.
Strength 7, toughness 6, so your classic big dragon stat line there. 7 wounds. Initiative 6 is very speedy for a dragon. Like, you're looking at 2 to 4 for most dragons, so this is a real step up. 6 attacks as well, leadership 10 still, and it does still have, D6 stomp attacks, all of the classic stuff you'd expect to see on a dragon. Fly, large target, swift stride, terror, stomp attacks. So all the things.
It's the singular best dragon stat line in the game right now. Before we're talking about anything else, just pure base stat line is the best one we have right now.
It's got plus. We would be getting into the weeds here. It's got plus weapon skill, plus base movement, and plus initiative over a star dragon, but you'd be losing wounds, and you'd be losing stomp attacks. It's pretty.
Oh yeah, that's a fair point.
I mean, I'm kind of splitting hairs. It's up there as some of the best dragon stats we've got. As mentioned, in human form, heavy infantry, and in the dragon form as behemoth. Classic there. 50 by 50 mil on the base size for human. 100 by 150 mil for a dragon. Whew, that is big.
This is the book of big base sizes, though.
You know what? True. That's true. I think as Old World progresses, I think we will see more things moving to this sort of base size. So if we get, for example, 5 years down the line a new High Elf Dragon, I don't expect it to be on a 60 by 100. It'll probably be, here's your 100 by 50 mil, and just start to see things move towards the bigger model size that we saw, not necessarily with the shift to Age of Sigmar, but just the shift that we've seen over the last sort of 10 years in terms of how they've designed their models and made things bigger.
Well, the last 2 dragons that were released were on 100 by 150 mil bases in 8th edition, which would be the Terrorgeist and the Vampire Dragon and Arcane, so 3 dragons. So the precedent's there, they just never got to finish the job.
Yeah, fair.
Now they get to.
Fair. Alright, so magic. In human form, level 4 wizard. In dragon form, a level 2 wizard. She casts a number of spells equal to her current level of wizardry per turn. She knows 4 spells from one of the following laws: battle magic, elementalism, and high magic. Pretty good spread of laws there. Is there one that leaps out to you immediately?
I mean, elementalism and high magic are the 2 which I'm like, yes, please, everything.
Yeah.
Because elementalism, just being able to do the dragon teleport and then TMP. Oh, the memes of doing that is just great. Also, Plague of Rust match is really lovely with the amount of just pure annihilation this dragon can put out. And then high magic, who doesn't love an ethereal dragon with reserve move?
Sure.
Who doesn't love that?
I personally am a big fan of battle magic. I like that you can roll 4 spells, and if you roll into Fireball and Pillar of Fire, you can just go, okay, cool. My wizard knows 4 direct damage spells. What are you going to do about it? That said, this is coming out at the same time as the Match Play Guide and the FAQ, and I've been talking for, I don't know, a year about how I think Pillar of Fire should be nerfed. I think it's very likely that Pillar of Fire is not in the same state as it is when we're recording now, as to when this book is officially released. So that probably never hits the tabletop with the wizard that does 4 damage spells, which is maybe for the best. And if Pillar of Fire just becomes a normal vortex, which is what I'm expecting, at that point I'm a lot more excited
Arcane
about
Urgency.
elementalism. Best spell in the game.
Arcane Urgency on something like this is phenomenal. Curse of Cowardly Flight as well. Really nice. Curse of Arrow Attraction. Bit poo right now because we're not doing much ballistic skill shooting. We have what? Ballistic skill, I mean. I think we have 1.
And
the balloons.
Yeah. And each model has
maybe
its own
that's
gun.
Quite nice.
Yeah.
So that's quite nice.
The
Shugengan can have a pistol. So yeah,
it's a good pistol as well. Yeah, I think all of these things all of these laws are pretty decent, and it kind of just shakes out as to what happens in the FAQ, how the meta changes. But I think right now you can pick any of them and be very happy about that.
And for everyone who's saying this is a Chaos Army, there's no Demonology or Dark Magic right there, so shush you mush.
I would have really liked Demonology. That would have been a nice law to get.
God, she'd be a terror.
Yeah.
She'd be a terror.
That'd be good. Especially because she could just bunker in a unit of Jade Warriors if she wants to just buff them up as well.
With all the other buffs that you can layer.
Absolutely, yeah. Probably a good thing that they didn't do that. So, special rules. Celestial Forged Armor. We'll get to those. In fact, I think after we've talked about Miao Ying, we'll go down and do the special rules because they're going to be referenced a lot.
Okay.
But, so Celestial Forged Armor, it's you get a ward save and you can cast spells while wearing armor. We'll talk about that more in a second. Disdain of Dragons is below. Hatred, Warriors of Chaos, and Demonic Models. Now, this is fluffy, but also, Warriors of Chaos, one of the best armies in the game. I'm not upset to have, rerolls to hit against them, especially when my dragon probably doesn't match up in combat with their dragon. So just tipping the scales a little bit more in my favour, I can live with that.
I am very excited mostly about the little line there that says demonic. They didn't need to put that in, because right now, every demon model that's not in Legacy is in Warriors of Chaos.
True.
So this is future-proofing. We're going to get, at some point, a demon that is not inside the Warriors of Chaos. That's proof right there.
Or, well, you know what? I'm not going to say no. I have a little bit less faith that it's an out-and-out ironclad proof, but it is a good sign, pointing in the right direction. Maybe we just get demons coming back to Old World as a proper faction. Who can say?
Could just be that.
That'd be nice. Yeah. Magic Resist 1. Not upset to see that. Always nice to get Magic Resist. 2 is when I sort of start to really care about it, but I'll take it. It's free and baked in. And then we've got some named rules here. Mastery of the Storm Winds, Mastery of the Elemental Winds, Stubborn. We all like Stubborn. And then we've got, basically everything else is a named rule. So let's go down and have a look at Disdain of Dragons. Something I should mention. If you're in human form, you just get Rallying Cry. Because why not have an additional rule? Yeah, it's thematic. It fits. I like it. Disdain of Dragons. Enemy models that wish to issue a challenge while within Miao Ying's command range must first issue a leadership test using their own leadership. If they wish to issue a challenge while engaged in a combat Miao Ying is engaged with, it must apply a +1 modifier to the dice roll if she's in human form, and a +2 modifier if she's in a dragon form. If you fail the test, you cannot challenge, and also challenges she issues cannot be refused. So just to be very clear with how that works, you do not get to choose who you are challenging. You declare a challenge, and if your opponent has models that they are, legally allowed to accept with, they have to accept with one of them. But this is good, because one of the big issues that dragons have is you get into that unit of skeleton warriors, and then you go, oh, okay, so you're going to challenge me, and then it's your turn, and you're going to res, and now the skeleton champion's going to res me. Do you know what leadership skeletons have?
Like 4.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. It's it's in the lower set of numbers. So let's give them let's say it's 5. 5 at AP, at a +2 to the dice roll. You'd have to roll a 2 or a 3 on your leadership test to be able to challenge Miao Ying, and I am here for that, because as a dragon enjoyer, I'm sick of being challenged out.
You've missed the best part, Ed.
Oh yeah.
You're not modifying a leadership value here. You're modifying a dice roll.
Yeah.
So, I've paid 100 points for a flag. That means you could never modify my leadership. That's nice. I'm getting around it here. Lovely. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. True. Enjoy your 100-point flag.
Bretonnian players seething right now. Cool. Love that.
Because it's the dice roll. They've made it very clear on this.
Yeah.
It also means if you have a way to drop leadership any further, this gets better.
Sure. Great. Yeah. No additional stuff there. Love that. Okay. Mastery of the Stormwinds. Here we go. This is the where the spice really kicks in, I think. So Miao Ying may discard up to 2 of her randomly generated spells rather than just the normal one. When she does so, she may replace them with spells known from the Law of Yang, the Law of Yin, the signature spell of a chosen law of magic, or with the following spell. That is an unreasonable amount of flexibility to get, because almost all of your choices as a wizard are locked in before the game. The best you can hope for is go, I've got a law familiar, and I get to pick specifically which 4 spells out of 6 I get to choose. She goes, here's a situation where there's a spell in the Law of Yin that's really valuable. Let's take that here. I don't have to put on my unit roster that I'm taking Law of Yin. You just get to choose from both. You also get a magic missile. Another magic missile!
Probably, I think, one of the most efficient magic missiles we've seen to date as well.
It's disgusting. It is truly foul in the best way.
It's great, but I mean, she gets to roll 4 dice, and then she's got access to 3, 6, 8, 9 additional spells on top of the 4 that she rolls.
3, 6,
wild,
7, 8.
No,
I think it's only 8.
It's 8.
It's only 8.
Sorry,
let's be reasonable here. Yeah. It's only 8 additional spells. God, can't get the staff.
Christ, it's great. That alone,
yeah.
Even if she didn't have her dragon form, that would make me want to take her.
Yeah, and that's off the top of my head. That's something like 2 magic missiles, 2 enchantments, an assailment, a hex and then
Couple of
something else.
hexes.
Yeah, like depending on what
Yeah.
your signature law is. There's so much flexibility in there. It's really, really nice.
I
Speaking
mean,
of,
you're still not taking Stormcall, but that's never getting taken.
no, but there is a storm that you might take, and that's the Storm Dragon's Fury. This is a magic missile that casts at a 10. It's an 18-inch range spell, and if you get it off, the target unit takes 2d3 strength 5 hits at AP 3 with flaming attacks, and when the hits have been resolved, the target enemy unit must give ground. Eat your heart out, Wind Blast. Oh, this is good.
Well, the thing is, you've probably got Wind Blast as well.
Yeah.
So that, I'm 2.4 inches away from the board. You won't push me off.
Yeah.
Watch me.
Yeah, just the double whammy. There's going to be some big brain plays. I know some of the best players that I play against are also little children inside, and really want to set up the Wind Blast off the table. I wasn't even specifically talking you, but yeah, you do fit in there. And honestly, me too. I'd be doing that more if Battle Magic didn't exist, but it does. So yeah, you can teleport from dragon to human form. You can teleport to 12 inches. You can Wind Blast, then you can Storm Dragon's Fury and go, you didn't see this coming, didn't you? You should have been 4.1 inches away from the board edge at all times, because... How dare
That's
you
huge
exist?
as well.
Yeah.
That's massive. Oh, I overrun. I don't make it off the board because you fled. Cool.
Yeah.
Now you die.
Yeah. That's pretty good. But yeah, like the damage on this thing is nuts. The casting value is a 10, but there is a rule that makes you more likely to be able to cast. But even if you're just rolling a flat 2d6, you're getting it off on, a 6, which is 21 out of 35. So it's like 58% of the time you get this spell off, I think. Or no, it's better than that. It's like 60-something%. Anyway, it's a really good spell, and it's just one of the many magic missiles that you can be rolling. So if you want to go for a blaster build, this is the sort of linchpin. I think I'd be going this, a Shigengan Lord, and just doubling down on 2 really, really good casters. That's how I'd be building in that way. Supreme Matriarch of Nangao. If your army includes Miao Ying, she must be the army general. Fair. In addition, 0-1 unit of Jade Warriors and 0-1 unit of Jade Lancers may be upgraded to Celestial Dragon Guard for +1 point per model. You get +1 to your weapon skill, leadership, and Celestial Armor 6 up. That's a lot of rules for 1 point.
It is a lot of rules. So the first line is the bit I find the most interesting here. We've already established that we're going to be probably getting more dragons, probably 1 a year now for the foreseeable.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you'd be able to take 2 with that line, because I can see that line being in every dragon.
Oh, interesting. So you're saying if they bring out another named character dragon, you would expect them to be... Yeah, so...
Potentially,
My expectation, and this is full theory crafting, which we probably shouldn't do, but I expect to see an unnamed generic dragon that you can, add wizard levels, add magic items coming in the Arcane Journal. I'm not expecting to see another named dragon. I don't think they'll do 2 sculpts. I think it'll just be, here's Miao Ying, you can also use this model as a generic dragon if you want to. But
and you could build it as Yuambo and stuff like that with this profile that we've given you.
And
you can
then
build the other 7.
I wouldn't expect to see this rule here. But yeah, if we did get, for example, if we go into 2nd edition and they don't do a flat rewrite and they just go everything's still valid up until your army gets a new army book or something like that, which is how they did things, I think, 9th to 10th edition.
That's a very fantasy way to do things.
Sure.
Very much been the way.
So maybe we just get, next edition 2 dragons that are named, and you go, well, now I can't do things. But anyway, that's looking to the future too much. Let's enjoy.
I find it an interesting sentence. That's all. But
No,
also,
that's a good
then you
point.
get chosen Chaos Warriors. Woohoo!
You get +1 weapon skill, leadership, and 6 up ward save. This is nuts. Just getting a 6 up ward save for a point. Yeah. I really like this rule. This is fantastic. I'm a huge fan of what we can do with that.
And it's filling out your core as well. So it's not like, it's this special unit which now I'm having to find points for.
Yeah.
It's wicked. I was struggling to spend those 500 points, and now it's easier.
I think, in my eyes, if you're running Yao Ming, you will be upgrading 1 unit of warriors and 1 unit of Jade Lancers, assuming you're taking both. You'll just be paying the extra point, and you maybe have like 2 or 3 less models. And you go, cool, these models are better. I've got a couple less of them. This is a good trade-off for me. Just the plus leadership as well is really nice, because this is an army, as mentioned, where if you've got her as your general, if she's a dragon, she's not giving that leadership bubble. So just make sure that
This
it doesn't
means a
matter.
leadership, I think, 8 basic, But then with
But
a magistrate or someone,
they
nearby,
they start at 8, so this gets them to 9.
They start at 8. Perfect. Even better.
They're elf chaos. That's what they are. They're elf chaos.
Yes.
Yeah. So the leadership gets them up to elf leadership or better, and the celestial armor gets them up to chosen tankiness. So great stuff there.
Yeah. We're still only strength 3, toughness 3, but we have ways around that.
That is
worry.
true. I shouldn't be too ridiculous. Anyway, Wrath of the Storm. All unit of Jade Warriors and Jade Lancers in an army led by Miao Ying gain the Hatred, Warriors of Chaos, and Demonic Models special rule. It's pretty good. I like that.
Would be bonkers if we had a big melee unit. We don't, so it's not that good, but it is still pretty good.
Well, you kind of do it. It depends how you want to support them. But you can end up with... So let's say you've got Miao Ying and you've got another Shigangan general. One of them takes high magic and one of them is, doing whatever. You can cast the extra attack spell on one of them. Oh yeah, so you've got elementalism and high magic. You can cast the extra attack spell on the lancers, so they get, up to 2 attacks. You hit the target unit with Plague of Rust, so their worst AP doesn't matter. And then, because you've got Hatred, you're getting a lot of attacks, rerolling hits, and then you're wounding. You can buff up their strength with other spells.
And you can get your strength high, yeah. Yeah, fair. So yeah, pretty good. This is speaking to me in a lot of similar ways as the Beastman listed, where individual units are mild, but then when you start adding things together, the combo's insane.
Yeah, what I find when I look through this book is it's very sort of in keeping with what I'd expect from Total War. I haven't played it, but I've read a lot around what Cathay was going to be. And there's a lot of synergy in there. The units on their own aren't necessarily going to win you fights, but then as soon as you go, oh, well, I can do this with this, they've got, I think, the most internal synergy between units out of any of the armies that exist. There's a lot that you can do to buff up your units.
There's a lot that the Empire rules writers could learn from this list, because I feel that Empire should be working in a similar... No, genuinely. That they should have the same levels of synergy, not presented in the same way, but the same levels of synergy should really be in Empire as well, because they are that whole regimental doctrine trained together. The handgunners know how to work with the spearmen, know how to work with the cannon, know how to work with the knights. So I really hope we see this kind of stuff adopted moving forward.
That'd be cool. I have seen Empire players online lose their minds a little bit when they look at the Cathay rules, which...
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. We've got Talons of the Storm. Okay, it's a dragon, so it's got normal, normal attacks. Nope. Strength user, AP -2, Armor Bane 1, magical attacks, strikes first.
And she gets that in human form too.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
I hadn't even realised. Yeah. Oh, you're going to charge me with a Banshee,
I pegged Miao Ying. I'm going to throw a 3-attack champion at you and I'm going to kill you. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Oh, boy. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah. No, so even in human form, that's 4 attacks at strength 4, AP 2, Armor Bane 1. Why has it got Armor Bane on there? Like, this is...
And she's strength 4. She may be a wizard, but she's still strength 4.
And strikes first as well. And loads of buffing spells. So even in human form, could be very comfortably 5 attacks at strength 5 at weapon skill 9.
Yeah, pretty easy too. Pretty easy. And if you're chaos, she's re-rolling to hit.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, great. Dragonfire. She's got a breath weapon. This is not nuts. This is just a strength 4 AP 1 breath weapon. Cool. That's normal. We can take a breath. Great stuff there.
Very good.
Yeah.
She's so nice.
Not upset to see that. But let's have a quick look at the special rules, because we've already referenced some of them, so we should get the full picture. If we just go down to... it's a little bit above here, I believe. Yes, here we go.
I did love in your video yesterday that I was watching of you, where you were going through a certain build, and you're like, I wonder if Chaos Armor and Celestial Armor are the same, and at the pop-up, and they're exactly the same.
Here's the thing. Will of the Dragons, this is the same as the High Elf rule, and I hadn't even clocked that it was just a copy-paste of the High Elf rule, Valor of Ages.
Is that as well?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It's it's the High Elf Chaos list. So, speaking of, Will of the Dragons, let's just start there. A unit with this special rule may re-roll a failed panic test when a friendly unit is destroyed within 6 of it, or when it's fled through by a friendly unit. This comes up less than you might think. A lot of other sources of panic, it's like normally you take 25% casualties. That's the big sort of source of panic that I tend to test with when you're playing a T3 army. So this is nice to have. You will probably forget it because 60 to 70% of the panic tests you take will not be the relevant ones. But do remember this rule because it really absolutely can, save your life. And also it's a May, so there's a lot of times where you take panic tests and you go, actually, I was in a really awkward spot in terms of facing. My opponent had me pinned in. I'd quite like to fall back in good order, get a free reform, and just face a direction that's better. So you don't even have to use it if it's going to be bad for you.
And I think anything that can be a melee fighter's got this as well.
I think this is just everything apart from artillery, I think, off the top of my head.
Yeah. So it's a very useful, very ubiquitous rule in the army.
Absolutely. Celestial Forged Armor. So we've done High Elves. This is the Chaos rule. A model with this special rule has a ward save against any wound suffered. The armor value of this ward save is shown in brackets. In addition, the wizard may wear armor without penalty. So you can have armor and cast, which is very important because they are very big on the sort of melee caster hybrid role, which we'll see basically throughout the character selection there. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Yeah. Not much to say. No, there is loads to say. This means that you don't have to pay points for ward saves. That's so good. It's just fantastic.
It's great. And it also means you can make your Shigengan Lord actually good in combat. Like, vampires are looking at this going, well, screw me.
Vampires have a baked-in regen, so I don't have too much sympathy for them. But yeah. I understand what you're saying. What I'm looking at when I see this is I go, oh, I actually get to do the Spectral Doppelganger caster, and it might actually be good. And it's been a long time since
everyone has seen that. Yeah, everyone's looked at it and gone, is it time? Can we talk about it again?
Yeah.
And especially when we get there with the 75-point magic item as well. It tempts you. It really tempts you.
One of the things that makes me really genuinely sad is that Warriors of Chaos Sorcerers don't have illusion. Because I'd love to do an illusion caster. I'd run around on a toughness 5 dragon so I could Spectral Doppelganger with that thing. But alas, it is not to be, but now it is for Cathay. So if you want to have, don't let your memes be dreams, you can be an illusion caster, you can have a great time. Interestingly, we didn't see illusion for Miao Ying, which I think is for the best, because the amount of output she would have if she was able to cast Spectral Doppelganger, I think might be too good. I think being able to Spectral Doppelganger
strike first
a dragon might be unreasonable. So yeah, I'm assuming that's the reason that they went, let's just not put illusion on the list for Miao Ying.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. I'd hate to have been in that playtest game.
Well, it depends which side of the table you're on.
Yeah.
Hey, I've just done 15 wounds to you. That's pretty nuts, that is. Anyway,
already got home.
Mastery of the Elemental Winds. Once per turn, a wizard within your army that has the special rule and is within 6 inches of one or more friendly wizards that also have the special rule may apply a +1 modifier to casting. It doesn't negate double ones. This is decent. This is not quite on par with the High Elf, casting rule, where every High Elf gets to reroll a single cast per turn. That's the best version of the reliability buff, but there's osually, across the course of a turn, one spell that you're like, this is the really important one. This is the one that I want to get off. So just being able to do that, I think it's nice. It's not too limiting, being within 6 inches of one or more friendly wizards. If you're playing sort of a blaster playstyle, quite often you're going to find that you're keeping your wizards sort of together around the unit that's giving them lone character protection. So say you've got a unit of Jade Lancers and a couple of Shigengan Lords. You're probably going to be within 6 inches of each other in that sort of playstyle. So I think this is solid. You just got to remember it and don't roll the dice and go, oh man, that was... Wait, hold on. Oh, hey, hold on.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to realise.
You don't have to do it before you roll?
No.
Oh, I hadn't even noticed.
Yeah, it's really good.
Do you want to tell us why that's good?
Because you can just decide when you want to do it. You can just roll and then do it. So you don't have to... So many of these effects say you must declare before the roll. And whenever you do that, you can guarantee you're rolling 3 on the dice.
Yeah.
This, you can be like, oh, I've rolled a 10, but you've got +6 to dispel because, I don't know, you've got some nonsense rules. Right, well, we're going to turn that one up, and we're going to make that one even stronger. So now you're not getting through it.
I felt like I had
so situationally great.
Yeah, I felt like I had to defend this rule because it's like, it's got some limitations in there. And then I realised, actually, no, this is just nuts. This is so good.
once Cathay, because they will, there's no way that they're going to leave us with casters just on monstrous creatures. Once we get casters on horses and on foot, this rule gets bonkers.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. All right. Fortunately, it is only once per turn. It's not once per turn per wizard. It's once per turn for your entire army. So I think 2 wizards.
Oh, yeah, but you can do it on assailments in your opponent's phase too.
Oh, that's true. Oh, yes! The spectral doppelganger dream is alive.
Yeah, it gets better. It gets better.
Huge fan of that. Perfect. All right, so great stuff so far. Normally, when we look at army rules, there's a dud in there, but we've just hit banger after banger so far. Speaking of, here's the elemental winds, and this is not the worst, but this is very inconsistent. So, during your start of turn subphase, you roll a d6 to see which of the elemental winds blows the strongest. On a 1 to 3, it's the winds of Yang. On a 4+, it's the winds of Yin, which is. Here's just a side note. I'm pretty sure they have flipped the way they referred to these. Like, sometimes they put Yang first, sometimes they put Yin first, and I don't know why, and it drives me nuts. Anyway, not important. So, you've got a 50-50 to get the wind that benefits you the most. The way that this works, until your next starter subphase for the winds of Yang, wizards with the Law of Yang special rule, so specifically wizards that you've picked Yang, you know, the Yang signature spell law for, increase their dispel range and the range of their enchantment spells by 3 inches. In addition, all friendly models with the Will of the Dragon gain one of the following modifiers, which is +1 movement or +1 initiative. Key to note, all eligible models gain the same modifier. So this is just an army-wide buff. So, oh no, I only get to give my entire army +1 movement or +1 initiative. What a shame. I guess I'll just give them +1 movement if that comes up. That's just, I think, almost always going to be the right choice. Unless you're playing into, I guess, a mirror match and... anyway. But this is something that lasts until the next start of turn subphase. So it's not a 1-turn buff, it lasts through your opponent's turn as well. Winds of Yin, very similar. Wizards that have chosen the Law of Yin signature spell, or, I should say, Miao Ying, who has both of these, increase the range of any hex or magic missile spells they know by 3 inches. In addition, all friendly models with the Will of the Dragon special rule gain either weapon skill or leadership. That's really nice.
Didn't even twig that Mao gets affected by both of these all the time.
Yep. Just gets...
Yeah, that's really cool. I like the way the buffs are split as well, because to me it reads like, are you in combat or are you on the mid-board? If you're on the mid-board, you're wanting leadership or movement. If you're in combat, initiative and weapon skill.
Sure.
So I quite like that, you know?
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
I do feel like Yin is just better.
In terms of
like if you roll Yin...
In terms of the buff that it gives, yes. Remember, like, the Law of Yang's the one with the magic missile, so you don't actually get to take the magic missile and get the range buff, unless you're Miao Ying, at which point you
you're Miao Ying, and now you've got 18-inch wind blasts of doom.
18-inch wind blast, 21-inch range, Storm Dragon, whatever it's called. But yeah, really, really nice stuff there. You've got the... wait, hold on, let me just double-check. That specifically is, so it's with the Law of Yang special rule, and she has specifically, let's go back up to it, because now I'm doubting myself. I want to make sure that she 100% does have the Law of Yang and the Law of Yin. You know what, she doesn't actually seem to have either of those.
Does she not have the special rules? So she doesn't get affected by either of the buffs?
No, I don't
That's
think
sad.
So. I'll be honest, I just assumed that she
another
would.
Special rule. No, she doesn't. I'm looking.
I wonder if that's
because she then has Mastery of the Storm Winds, which replaces those 2 special rules.
Mastery of the Storm
Which is okay. She didn't need more. She didn't need more buffs.
She didn't need more special rules. Okay, sure. That feels like it might actually be an oversight. Because you'd expect the character who has Mastery of the Storm Winds to... Oh, maybe this replaces her Mastery of Elemental Winds. Anyway, by the by. So Miao Ying, I guess, doesn't get it. But that's okay, because she has 37 other rules. I can live with that. Now, my favourite, not model. The model I can take or leave, but I love the rules on this thing, because I'm a sucker for a melee wizard. So, we've got the Shigangan Lord, we've got the Shigangan General. This is a monstrous creature character, which is really nice. And they're on a 60 by 100 mil base, so they're the size of dragons for other armies. Comes in, they are toned down lords because they are also able to do magic. So they start off at 1 lower weapon skill than you might expect. So 6 for the lord and 5 for the general. Ballistic skill doesn't really matter, although you can pay to take a pistol. I probably wouldn't. Coming in at base strength 4, toughness 5, 7 wounds on the lord, 6 on the general. Keep in mind that we've got the character's mount built in there. And you've got 4 attacks on the lord, 3 on the general, and leadership 9 for the lord and 8 for the general. These are, I think, pretty reasonable stat lines. I think they're really solid.
I keep looking at the second one, and I think it's costed, the 145 point one is costed so efficiently that I keep trying to make justifications to take it over the big one.
Yeah.
It's so efficient for that point line.
That's
so
true.
efficient. It's just, if I could take 75 points of items on the 145, I don't think I'd ever look at the 221.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. I would, because I want
yeah,
to take a 70-point weapon and a 30-point lore familiar.
Yeah, you're just all aboard the doppelganger train,
really
which is cool. I'm there for it. In my games, I've been using these as defensive pieces way more than attacking pieces.
That's probably the better way to use them. And I think right now, depending on what happens with Pillar of Fire, battle magic looks very tasty for them because they can take that extra magic missile. So they've got the ability to potentially hit you with Fireball, Ruby Ring, Lore of Yang magic missile, Pillar of Fire, and then still have like Arcane Urgency in the tank, which is just really, really nice. What else do they get? Well, they come in, they start as a level 2 wizard for the Lord and a level 1 wizard for the General. You can pick from Battle Magic, Elementalism, Illusion, and High Magic. And then we've got a whole host of special rules down here. Starting off with Armored Hide 2. You cannot take a shield on this model, but you can buy heavy armor for it. So for 4 points, you get up to a 3-up armor save. On top of that, you've got a 5-up ward. You don't have to buy a ward save. Then you just have all of the rules that you might want apart from stomps, which you've got countercharge, you cause fear, you fly 9, you've got D3 plus 1 impact hits, you've got the mastery of elemental winds, which is important for your casting, you've got swift stride, and then you've got will of the dragons as well, which is, the rule itself is kind of whatever, but there are buffs that layer on top of it from that mastery of the elemental winds that really make that valuable. So just a whole host of special rules there that make you a pretty competent melee threat, I would say. What are we thinking?
There's only one thing on this which makes me go, oh, man, the impact hits don't have AP.
Oh, true. That is
so
true.
I thought when I was first reading this that the Crown of Horns part at the bottom there was the stat line that you used for the impact hits. And I was like, oh, cool, AP 1, Armor Bane 1, great. No, you get to choose between those two when you make you normal attacks. I don't know why you'd ever use Crown of Horns.
No, so Crown of Horns is for the mount. The Shigengan has the Iron Talons.
Oh, wow, that's his base stat line. That's pretty cool. Sorry, I misread that. I thought that was both on the Longma. But yeah, that's my only thing. I get not having stomps. It's all about being swift and lithe and stuff like that. It's a big peg. Pegs have stomps, but that's beside the point. These get impact hits.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have either seen Armor Bane on the profile for just the Longma or impact hits with AP.
I agree. I think if we just took the Great Stag from Wood Elves, they've got AP 1 and Armor Bane 1 on everything they have. Stomps, impact hits, and attacks. I think that would be fine, just to roll into the longer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's
but
not
I'm nitpicking.
Yeah.
It's still got Swift Stride, it's still got Fly 9, it's still got a baked... It starts at a 4-up, 5-up. Like, I'm cool.
This is, in my eyes, this is like a Wyvern equivalent, where you've got a character on top who's not quite as fighty, and then you've got the Longma itself, which doesn't actually provide much other than the toughness and the movement. And yeah, like, don't get me wrong, 3 attacks at strength 5, AP 1, Armor Bane 1, it's not awful, but it's not, when you're looking at mounts, it's not anywhere in the same sort of realm of, it's not a dragon, it's a very much lighter...
Yeah.
It's not even, I would say...
But it's nowhere near the points. I don't think it even comes out of Wyvern points. I think it's cheaper than a Wyvern.
You can run Wyverns pretty comfortably with double save for sub 300 points. So when you've added the wizard levels on here, or like put some magic items on there, it's I'd say more expensive than a Wyvern, but you're also getting rolled into that being a level 4 caster, which is really nice.
Yeah. To really talk about this fully, though, we need to talk about the magic weapons. When we come back to this, we'll talk.
Yeah, absolutely. In
fact, about this guy Oaktail.
Let's talk about the non-magical weapons first, because we're gonna, we've got options, and this is kind of the big miss for me in the book. I think the weapon options that you can buy are incredibly underwhelming, and I think that's fine. I think having that as a balancing factor is not an issue, but I'm not excited to use any of these. So you start off with the Iron Talon, which was, strength user AP 1, armor bane 1, which is fine. And you can upgrade for 4 points to a Cathan Lance, which is strength +1, AP -1, armor bane 1, fight an extra rank, not relevant for this model, but relevant for the Lancers later on. But your strength and AP only apply on the turn it's charged. That's fine, but it's not exciting. I'd like a lance. I don't often take lances on my characters because if you get in a grindy combat, you're sad about it, and this is worse lance for the character specifically. So I don't love that. Then you look at the Celestial Blade. So it's strength +1, AP -1. So the same as the lance. You lose the armor bane, but you gain strike first, which is quite nice. So that gives you a little bit more speed on your attacks. Really makes you look like an elf. But both of these I'm not jazzed about. I probably want to go for some sort of magic weapon on this character, which is not a problem necessarily because you're not paying for the ward save, so you've got more points in there to build around. But it is an interesting balancing act. I'd love to have a great weapon on this model, but
that's my point. Yeah. I would like something that's got strength 2 or AP 2. Having both on one would be great.
Yeah.
But just having the option to go one way or the other, I understand why they've chosen a Celestial Blade and a Cathayan Lance.
Yeah.
But there has been, since Ogre Kingdoms, the Cathayan Longsword has existed. And it's not here.
Sure. So in terms of, as a player, I want the great weapon. Looking at this holistically, I quite like that. I'm assuming this was an active choice as a balancing choice, that they went, actually, we're not going to give them that. I like that lever that they've pulled in terms of balance for the game, where they've gone, actually, if you want to have a good melee weapon, you do have to pay through the nose for it. You have got to go for something. And there are some, moderately decent, cheap magic weapons as well, which are fine, so you can build around it, and then obviously you can layer on top all of the other buffs, so maybe just giving them a great weapon when they've got access to so much buffing to weapon skill. Here's a plus strength spell, here's Spectral Doppelganger. Maybe that would have been too much, but yeah, interesting that they can't take something that's similar to a great weapon. We may as well talk about the Dragonfire Pistol as well while we're here, which is something that you can buy on this character, but don't, because it's only Ballistic Skill 3. 12-inch range, Strength 5, AP 1, Multiple Shots 2, Quick Shot, and Flaming Attacks. Not bad for a pistol. Pretty alright.
I want this on my balloons so bad.
You know where I want
wish
this?
The Magistrate could have this.
I want a unit of light cavalry with Dragonfire Pistols. I want Road Wardens, but for Cathay. That's what I'm looking for. Be a big fan of that. Perfect. Well, so we'll look at the other two regular bits of gear later on when we come to a relevant one. But yes, so you can take either the Blade for 6 points or Lance for 4 points. I'm not jazzed about either of them. You can take the Dragonfire Pistol for 4 points, which, I mean, if you've got the points, go for it, but you're probably not hitting. Light Armor with Heavy Armor for 4 points. You're always doing this unless you're buying a Magic Armor. And then we've also you've got to pick from the Law of Yang and the Law of Yin. These are the two signature spell laws that we'll look at after this character, because this is the other character in the book. Otherwise, you've got upgrades to level 3 or 4 Wizard, magic items up to 100 points for the Lord, and then the General can be a level 2 Wizard with magic items up to 50 points. So if you fully trick out a level 2 Wizard with 50 points of magic items and then the armor, I guess that puts you at what? 229?
200, call it. Yeah, not a lot.
229. That's cheap. You could run 4 of those.
It's very cheap. You could, yeah. I think there is definitely a build for a Lord and 3 Generals, which will work quite nicely.
Sure. You'd have to skimp a little bit on the items and the Wizard levels, but yeah, that's definitely something that you can play around with. Because we all know that level 2 Wizards aren't actually good. So maybe you just go, suck it, I'm just going to play a level 1 Wizard. I'm going to go Illusion. I'm going to take, Glittering Robes and just be -1 to hit, because it's a spell I can probably get off as long as I'm not into spell range. And then just lean on the fact that I've got, Toughness 5, 6 wounds, 3 up save, 5 up ward natively, and go from there. I think that's an interesting way to build.
It's more access to these amazing signature spells.
Yeah, amazing signature spells is right, and I think this is the correct time to look at them. And obviously there was a video breaking them down yesterday as well that I went into, but let's talk about them in the context of the full army. So, if we go down, we'll start off with the Law of Yang, and remember that you have 2 signature laws on your army roster. You write down which law you want to go for, with the exception of Miao Ying, and you can pick any of the 3 here So it gives you a lot of flexibility, and both laws I think are worth building into, and it's just whether you want to be, do you want to set the pace of the game yourself with the Law of Yang, or do you want to take agency away from your opponent with the Law of Yin? That's how I've been thinking about these two. So we'll start off with Constellation of the Dragon. I've talked about the fact that there's another magic missile, and this is a magic missile with an 18-inch range, cast on a 7 or cast on 11. So if you want the higher level, you've got to get a higher roll, and this is where the +1 to cast after you see the dice roll really comes into its own, I think. But worst case scenario, it's not that you don't get the spell off, you just, you only get a worse fireball. If you cast it on a 7 or more, you get d6 plus 1 strength 4 hits with no AP. If you cast it on an 11 or more, it's 2d6 plus 2 strength 4 hits at AP 1. That is nuts.
Yeah. It's good, and you say worst fireball, but when your dice are like mine, that's just the same as always, because I roll 2 every single time. So I'm still just going to get 2.
Yeah.
So this is just normal fireball for me at casting level 7. I really do like that it's got the summoning with a bit of extra juice on the back of it, though. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's great.
This is one where if you're going for the blaster with Miao Ying and you're like, oh yeah, let me hit you with Wind Blast and the Storm Dragon spell and the Constellation of the Dragon. Oh, there's nowhere. I was going to push you off the board, but it turns out you're dead instead. So
you did, yeah. I just
stuff.
deaded you.
Yeah,
you became the board.
Really good magic missile. I like that. It's the range being 18, it means it still feels very usable, I think. Onto the Grace.
This next one just looks at Linehammer and goes, no.
Yeah, which is very funny. So it's an enchantment, the Great Bastion, cast on a 9. It's a 12-inch range, which is not bad for an enchantment. It remains in play, which I really don't like. That is a downside, but it's fine. The target friendly unit gains a 6+ ward save against any wound suffered. In addition, when an enemy unit charges you, every model in the front rank of that enemy unit that ends its charge move in base contact with the target unit. So it's if they're a million miles wide, it doesn't matter. It's only the models in base-to-base contact. They must make a dangerous terrain test, and any wounds lost are counted as unsafe wounds inflicted when counting for combat res. However, the unit can't march or charge, and you can cast it into combat. Tell me about this spell. What are you thinking?
It's better. It's better Earthen Ramparts for me. It has the same kind of limitations on it. You can't march or charge. You can cast it into combat, so it's even better. Okay, it's a 6-up ward, not a 5-up ward, but it's got offensive stuff.
Yeah.
And, everyone can roll a 1. It doesn't matter if you've got a triple save target coming into you. You roll a 1, you lose that wound. So this can be a really good speed bumper for you. And, you say it's a remain in play, and that is an issue. However, we've rolled well on our elemental winds, so now this is a 15-inch range. It's an enchantment, and all our casters have fly. So I'm going to cast it on that unit, and then I'm going to book it.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. What I will say is, it's interesting that you say it's better Earthen Ramparts. For me, I feel like it's a worse Earthen Ramparts. So I think that probably means it's a side grade, because it just depends how you want to play. So as you point out, you can cast it into combat. That's the big downside of Earthen Ramparts that you've got to play around with. I really value the 5-up ward over the 6-up ward, especially when you can get 6-up ward across this army if you've got Miao Ying and you upgrade the Jade Warriors and the Jade Lancers. But that doesn't mean it's worse. It is better in some ways and worse in other ways. So it depends whether you want to try and be cute and force your opponent to take loads of dangerous terrain tests and go, ha, you hit me with a unit of chariots, did you? It's a shame you rolled 3 1s. You're taking a lot of wounds here.
Yeah, and the other reason why I like this more than Earthen Ramparts is because there's no stupid wiggly line as counts behind a low linear obstacle. It's very clear what this spell does.
That is true. So what is really nice, I think, about this is you can have Earthen Ramparts without going into elementalism, or if you go into elementalism and you just dry roll 4 spells, say you wanted to go for a different arcane item or you're saving points, and you don't get Earthen Ramparts, alright, cool, I won't take the magic missile. Instead, I think it's important I take the ward save in this matchup. Gives you a backup there. So not upset to have that spell at all. Then we've got Might of Heaven and Earth, and this is my favourite spell. As someone who likes, combat wizards, this is... So, it's an enchantment spell. It's cast on a 9 or a 12. It's a ranged self, and it's not remains in play. It lasts until the start of your next turn. This is everything I want out of a combat buff. If you cast it on a 9 or more, the caster, their mount, and any unit they've joined gets +1 to weapon skill and strength. They do gain flaming attacks, which is not ideal, because there are things that get good ward saves against flaming attacks, but that's fine. The weapon skill and strength are really nice. However, if you cast it on a 12 or more, it's all friendly units within the caster's command range. That's huge. And speaking of...
I can't wait to cast this on Miao Ying.
Or
everyone in 18 on that gigantic base.
Or a Shigengan Lord. Still a large target.
Or a Shigengan Lord.
Both of
these...
they're
not. They're not. The Shuggies aren't.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, I was playing a game last night, and halfway through we realised, hang on, he's not large target.
It is funny how the brain fills in words when you like.
It doesn't even cause terror.
No, that's true.
It doesn't even cause terror. It causes fear.
So that I had noticed, but there is a way around that when we'll get to the magic items. So I'm not.
There is. But I really like this. It's going to be absolutely destroying for you in certain ways.
Yeah.
Because if you cast this just before you go and charge off with everything, this is the reason your Shigengan's only strength 4. This is the reason your Jade Lancers don't have strength 2 Lancers. This spell right here.
Sure. They're making you really lean on the internal synergy of the book to get the same output. And this is where, even though I really like the Spectral Doppelganger, I might be tempted to run a combat wizard that is just running Elementalism for Plague of Rust and then this spell. And you're going, I'm going to try and give my entire army +1 strength. I'm going to try and hit the unit that they're attacking with -2 AP, -2 armor save. This is the sort of way that I'm going to do my damage. It's not having the Lord itself do the damage, but having it be the linchpin that the army is sort of built around.
Such a shame we don't have Plague of Rust on a bound item for, I don't know, power level 3, something like that. Such a shame.
Well, have I got news for you?
Hey!
Before we get into that, I guess let's talk about the Law of Yin. And we've got the Spirits of Wind and Shadow as the first spell. Now, this is a hex, and this law is 2 hexes and a settlement. It is if you want to take agency away from your opponent, which I think is really interesting. So, first one, Spirits of Wind and Shadow, hex, cast on a 10, 15-inch range spell. Until your next start of turn subphase, target enemy unit becomes subject to the random movement D6 special rule. Random mover is really, really strong. You know when it's not really strong?
Yeah.
When you're not moving 3d6. When you're moving d6 inches, you'll almost never make it into combat with anything. That is so sad.
This is my favourite spell in the book. I adore this spell because it's got a potential of 18-inch range on it because of the winds as well. So you can just sit and on charge range of a lot of stuff and just go, ha, ha, which I just love. The trolling capabilities of this is unreal.
It is pretty solid. So this is just very strong. Are you wanting to build an army that you think is going to struggle against dragons? Maybe you just hit them with this spell, and that dragon never makes it into combat. It's like Miasmic Mirage, but better in most ways. Because Miasmic Mirage...
Which you can also do.
Oh, yeah. Which I guess would stack. The -2 movement would stack with the D6 move because it replaces your move stat. Oh, that's pretty.
And then your cannons drop them by 1 as well. So yeah, we could have a random move 1 dragon.
That's pretty sad.
Mm-hmm.
But because there's so many different ways to specifically hit a single target's movement value, you don't even have to use all of them. You can just use the best ones for you, and it still have really strong effect. Next up, we've got the Accursed Mirror. Do you hate seeing poison shooting bricks? Yes. Do you worry about having a dragon with only a 4-up armor save against poison shooting bricks? Yes. Do you want to just ruin their day? Yes. This is a hex spell with a 9-inch... a cast on a 9. It's a 15-inch range hex. Until your next start of turn subphase, any rolls to hit of a natural 1 made by target enemy unit during the shooting or combat phase result in a strength 3 hit at AP 1 against the unit that they are in. And it may target a unit that's in combat. What does this mean? If you've got a Royal Host unit with 140 models in that make something like 90 volley fire shots, something like that, they will be taking, I guess, on average, what? So many. My brain's just turned off. 15 strength 3 AP 1 hits.
Yeah.
It's
14, 15, something like that.
A...
What this is even funnier, though, is when things have got multi-shot. So I like to call this spell... I like to call this spell "Fuck You, Dave Brewis" because every build he comes up with, this just counters it.
Yep.
So you've got Outriders that are going to go, "Oh, I'm going to plonk 90 billion shots at you." I've got Gyrocopters. No, you're just not shooting that unit this turn.
Yep. That is nice. It's obviously more effective the bigger the unit, but any model that shoots multiple times, if you've got multiple shots 3, like a repeater handgun, you are in a world of hurt because you've got a 50% chance per model to take the strength 3 hit, which is really tasty.
And you're only strength 3 with heavy armor, so you don't really want toughness 3. Sorry, with heavy armor, so you don't really want to take it. So you're just not going to shoot.
I actually think this spell is most of the time not going to be super useful for you, but in the matchups where it is, you're going to really like it. I'm pretty sure.
And it's a signature.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm pretty sure this doesn't count for combat res in combat. Because it's...
No, it can it specifically says, whereas the other spell said that it counts towards it.
Yeah. So because that would really juice it up. But yeah, I think if you're playing into someone who's got multiple attacks, or even just like, you could put this on, I don't know, if your opponent's got, for example, you're playing into an opponent who is playing the Cathan Lancers and is going illusion, and they want to buff them up with multiple attacks, so they hit them with Fury of Cain to give them +1 attack. Yep. That's 4 attacks per model, 2 for the Lancer, 2 for the Horse. That's an over 50% chance per model that they're going to be taking a hit that wounds them on 4s, and then AP1 as well. That's yeah. Oh god,
so it doesn't count to combat res, but in an army that doesn't have that much output, and we're good at sticking around Cathay, especially the infantry. It doesn't do that much damage out, but it's really good at not taking any damage.
Yeah,
it's a really good little effect to have.
Cavalry with extra attacks get ruined by this. That's brilliant.
Wild Riders. Oh god, this munches Wild Riders. Because it's magical damage as well.
Yeah, that is spicy. All right, cool, great stuff. Finally, we've got Ancestral Warriors, which is maybe the least exciting one, but it's still pretty good. So it's an assailment that casts on either a 7 or 11, just like the magic missile. Range combat, who'da thunk it? It's an assailment spell. If it's cast on a 7 or more, a single enemy unit the caster is engaged with takes 2d3 strength 2 hits, AP 0, but also armor bane 2. If it's cast on an 11 or more, the enemy unit takes 2d6 strength 4 hits at AP 1 and armor bane 2. That's pretty nice.
Oh, yeah. I'd missed that the armor bane was on both. I just think it's neat that we have a spell with armor bane. It's pretty cool.
I agree. You know? What I really like about this is the 2d6 strength 2 at AP 0. You're like, oh, that's terrible. A lot of your, like, most of the wounds you're going to be getting are going to be from your 6s. Because if you're going into anything toughness 4 or greater, it's only a 6 that wounds. So it's effectively printed, and it's not quite. But into anything toughness 4 or greater, it's 2d3 strength 2 hits at AP 2. Just flat. The armor bane will always apply.
Do you know what's funny? If they'd have printed that, people would have lost their minds. If the toughness is strength 4 or higher, it's AP2, but it's the same thing. It's just funny how people would have accepted it.
Yeah, I think people would have been wrong to lose their minds, but I do agree that people would have looked at that and go, "This is too good for the lower level." But yeah, this is great. I really like this spell, and again, if you're wanting to do some sort of melee wizard, the +1 strength and weapon skill spell's probably better. But this isn't bad.
Yeah.
If you want to have more flexibility and go, I need the hex, I want the control. Some matchups I don't need that ability. I just want to be able to also go in and hit people with Ancestral Warriors. I think that's really good.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. So we're back to the this is the last caster, so we've looked at the spells. Let's go through on to the Gatemaster of the Celestial Cities. Now, this is the one that I've seen people lose their mind over a little bit, because they're like, oh, it's got an elf stat line. Kind of. So you've got your Gatemaster, who's weapon skill 7, with strength and toughness 4, 3 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 9, 80 points. It's pretty decent. And then we've got the Gatekeeper, who is, as you'd expect for heroes, 1 less weapon skill, 1 less wound, 1 less attack, 1 less leadership. All of the stuff that you'd expect there. Now, that might be scary if you could put a good weapon on them. But you're going to struggle to do that, because they come with hand weapon, heavy armor, shield. You can take either the blade or the lance if you're mounted. You can be mounted on a warhorse for 16 points, and you can have up to 100 points of magic items on the master and 50 points on the gatekeeper. I don't know that I want to buy an expensive magic weapon on a 3 attack model.
No, I mean, these sit in a very similar category. I feel both of them sit in the same category as the cheaper Empire heroes. So, not the general of the Empire, the captain one. These are going in and they are force multiplying your units. So that Harmony of Stone and Steel is pretty cool.
Sure.
It's your BSB. I genuinely don't see a reason to take the Gatemaster ever, other than a thematic list. I just don't really see why you would, you know?
Yeah. Harmony of Stone and Steel, as you mentioned, gives them re-rolling leadership tests when reforming after running down a foe, redirecting a charge, or making a restraint test. So this is like you put this in a melee unit, and you've got some re-rolls to leaderships there. If you've also made it BSB, you've also got the BSB re-rolls for Panic, Fear, and Terror. So yeah, it's a force multiplier, as you say. It gives a lot of consistency to the unit they put in.
Don't get me wrong, I want to put the monkey staff on the Gatemaster and then put him in a unit of Lancers and just see what happens, but that's a very bad idea. You know?
It's a very expensive weapon for a 3-attack model. But yeah, no, you can do that. That is something that legally I can't stop you from doing. Funnily as well, you can also get up to weapon skill 9 between the Yang spell and the Elemental Winds, which is frankly hilarious. Unnecessary, frankly hilarious.
So one thing that I am genuinely thinking about doing is, because we've got such high leadership in this army to stand up off of, I think you can get away with a wizarding hat, glittering robe on your Gatekeeper BSB.
Interesting.
I think you can get away with it here, because having -1 to hit on, let's face it, a pretty squishy unit of knights.
I don't hate that.
Pretty good.
That is interesting. I am worried because it's an aggressive unit. You're going to be going forwards. You're rolling at +1. You're going to be dispelling at +4. I don't hate it. I'm not sure how well that works out on paper, just in terms of enemy dispel threats, but I like the concept. It's the first time I've heard...
one thing that these guys are missing.
Yeah.
One thing these guys are missing is they don't have the ambush rule, which matters quite a lot.
That's true. That is true. And there's no way to give it to them either, is there?
No, so that's real sad.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting there. The Cathan Warhorse they can be mounted on comes with barding, as you'd expect. It's a movement 7 horse. All just normal stuff there. They've got Cathan Cataphracts, we'll see on page 33 when we get to the Jade Lancers, but they more importantly have Countercharge, First Charge, Swift Stride. These are good rules. I don't think there's anything in there that I'm upset to lose. You know, I think we've just got all of the rules that you'd want on a cavalry unit that you can take in core, or, you know, attached to core.
I mean, Cathan Cataphracts is kind of cool to have on them, just maintains the stuff, but yeah, it's a horse.
It's a horse. Look at my horse is amazing. Perfect. Moving on to the Magistrates of Grand Cathay. Now, we're going to look at the balloons later, so keep in mind that when we're talking about stuff, this is just going to be a force multiplier for the balloons as well. But let's look at what you get. So, for 65 points, you can get a Lord level character that's 0 to 1 per 1,000 points, which feels very weird. But it's got a very generically mediocre stat line. It's got a wizard stat line with a little bit more weapon skill, basically. Your strength and toughness 3.
Yeah.
You've got a less attacks than you might do. You've got a really good leadership. I think it's a little bit odd that they've made the strategist leadership 9 as well. I think having this at 9 for the magistrate and 8 for the strategist would have been okay. But they haven't done that. So otherwise, you've got an Empire human stat line here, basically. They can take one of the following: the gunpowder bombs and the dragonfire bombs. We'll have a look at it in a second. The sky lantern as well, which is probably what you're going to do with them. And then we've got the 100 points magic items for the magistrate, 50 points for the strategist. And then they've also got the rule Grand Strategist. Unless the character is fleeing, all friendly units within command range, except your general, can use this character's leadership characteristic instead of their own. In addition, once per turn, a friendly unit that wins a round of combat while within this character's command range may choose to fall back in good order rather than make a follow-up or pursuit move. So this adds a lot of flexibility to how you're going to be playing with balloons.
So these guys, if you want to do the Jade Warrior star, which I think has got a lot of legs to it, and I think really does need looking at it, these guys are filling up half of your front rank. So 2 magistrates and 3 strategists, all with fire bombs, standing in the front of that thing with a collection of magic items. So no one wants to charge that unit. Yeah. No one wants to charge that unit. And then you can fall back in good order if you do. So then you can do it again, and then just shoot them the next turn. So I really like these guys on foot. I think 50 points of just going, ha-ha! is quite interesting. Even just in a Jade Warrior unit is really cool. On a balloon, holy guacamole, this thing's busted.
Yeah, they are pretty good.
I run 3. They're so much fun.
Just going down to the armory, we should talk about the bombs that they can bring. So you start off with the gunpowder bombs, the cheaper of the two, and these have basically all of the same rules, but then more stuff for Dragonfire bombs. So they're both 9-inch range. The gunpowder bomb is a strength 3, AP 0, armor bane 1 weapon. It's got move and shoot and quick shot, and if you do manage to hit, you get D3 hits instead of a single hit. So this is very similar to anyone who's played Skaven, the Poison Wind Globadiers, that sort of rule. So you only roll a single hit, which means that you don't, you've got lots of output, but without suffering the minus to hit from having multiple shots, basically, is how I would describe it. So
yeah,
it's a high volume attack, and it's fine. Then we've got the more expensive Dragonfire Bomb, which is still 9-inch range. It's strength 4, so 1 better, AP 1, 1 better, still has the armor bane, still has move and shoot, still has quick shot. It's gained flaming attacks, which I would say is maybe a downside, but that's okay. And then if you manage to hit successfully, you do D3 plus 1 hits to the target unit instead of the usual 1. So this is just an upgrade in basically every facet of the ability. It's really nice.
And these can go on the balloons, both of them as well.
Yeah.
I love that this is the only equipment this magistrate can get. He's like, sword? Nope, beneath me. Gun? Nope, not reloading that. What I will do is throw this bomb, though. That's all I'm going to do, is huck a bomb at you. And he's mildly good at doing it as well. He's ballistic skill 4, I think. So these are so good. They are my favourite part of the core equipment in the book. The Dragonfire bombs.
If you're
really good. I love them.
If you're doing the Jade Warrior Death Star that you just mentioned, where you're playing around with having a front rank of Dragonfire Bomb throwing characters, you have to run unit fillers, which are Jade Warriors with wheelbarrows, with just loads of bombs in the wheelbarrow. I
kind of like it though. I'm working around with this Jade Warrior list, and it only works if any of these rumors that we've heard are true. But it seems kind of scary, honestly, because then it's not like you don't have a dragon sitting behind it.
Sure. Yeah, the dragon that hit the target unit that wants to charge you with Plague of Rust. So it's effectively AP3 armor bane 1. Oh, spicy. All right. Yeah, no, that is interesting. That is very interesting. So that is it for the characters, and we move on to one of our 2 core selections here, and that is the Jade Warriors. We've referenced them a lot. They're a standard heavy infantry. Heavy infantry is interesting. I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
They're base weapon skill 4, which is really nice. 3s across the board on the strength and toughness. Initiative 3 as well, so very human stat line there. 1 wound, 1 attack. Leadership 8 is really nice for the unit there, and they're coming in at 8 points, which is, how much does an Empire State Troop cost? Isn't that 8 points?
These are more expensive, ever so slightly, but not than the veteran ones.
I think by the time you've bought the shield or the halberd or whatever it is, it comes out the same.
Oh yeah, it is probably the same. These are just better by 1. The bit that's wild to me is, if you take these as Miao Ying's ones that are plus 1 weapon skill, 50% of the game you're going to have weapon skill 6 core.
That's so funny. And then you can very comfortably cast a spell to buff them to weapon skill 7, so that they're hitting those Empire halberdiers on 2s.
Chaos Dragon's hitting you on 4s. It's rude.
Yep. So you have to take halberds or shields. It's a little bit of a shame that you can't take both. This is something that we see with modern kits. Instead of having the option to take all of them, they typically build them in a way where you're either equipped with one or the other, and then the rules reflect that, which is a little bit of a shame. If I'm taking a unit, I wanted to have shields against, range damage, but then I probably also want to have halberds as well, because the halberd actually does some sort of damage. But to be fair, infantry, you're not taking infantry to do melee damage, so maybe it's not too much of an issue there. Command, 6 points per, so nice and cheap to upgrade your models there. A Jade Officer can have up to 25 points of magic items, and 0 to 1 unit per 1,000 points may have Drilled, Stubborn, and purchase a magic standard up to 50 points. Drilled at 1 point per model, that is very valuable. Stubborn at 2 points per model is a little bit harder to swallow, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't really go for the Stubborn most of the time on this. I don't feel that you need to a lot of the time with the amount of leadership that you've got. with that next rule as well, with defensive stance, I feel like you're not going to take that much damage in combat. They're okay. They're
Sure.
good as they are.
Yeah. So the special rules they come with, close order, obviously. Defensive stance, which is unless it charged or counts as having charged this turn, a unit with this special rule may re-roll any armor save rolls of a natural 1 made during the combat phase. I would expect to see this only if you're armed with a shield, but you're not. You know, you can, even if you've got a halberd, you're happy to be in defensive stance, which I think is really interesting there.
Yeah. Personally, I'm never running them with halberds.
Yeah.
5-up save feels scary. We're in Vestigor territory now, and that's why they never run, you know?
Yeah. It is nice to have a relatively cheap unit of infantry with a good weapon skill and a good save. That makes it hard for them to be hit. Because the high weapon skill, it's not just nice for output, it's also really nice for the ability to, not take as much incoming damage. You know, if your dragon's hitting them on 4s because they've been juiced to the 9s, suddenly you might find that, oh, bugger, hold on. I'm not doing as many points of overkill here. They've got detachment.
Can't wait to see what... Yeah, I was about to say, with the detachment and regimental units, I can't wait to see what other units we get with those two in it. Because right now it's just Jade Warriors with more Jade Warriors. Jade Warriors.
I thought you were being sarcastic. You're like, oh, I can't wait to see what else is in this book that's got a regimental unit. But yeah, so detachment, regimental unit, it's only for this this unit here. So that means that you can take a big unit supported by smaller units. That's usually not ideal. But where it's good is limiting the amount of drops. Because when you put down the detachment, you put down the regimental units as well. Sorry. Vice versa.
Yeah.
Will of the Dragons as well, so they're getting all the buffs, and they've got the panic reroll, good stuff there. And like I say, up to 2 units at 2,000 points can have a magic standard, which is pretty nice. I do like this unit. Solid, lovely models. I'm not upset to take it as a unit of core infantry. You know, it's not exciting, but given that I don't have many other options, I can put it in a list without feeling too hard done by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agree.
Moving on to the Jade Lancers, which you can take 0 to 1 unit per 1,000 in core. These are stat line exactly the same, 4 on the weapon skill, 3s across the board, 1 attack, 1 wound. They're coming in at 20 points, and they are riding a Cathan Warhorse, which is a 7-inch move model with weapon skill 3, strength 3, and a single attack as well. These are heavy cavalry. They come in a unit of 5+, and they come equipped with the Cathan Lancers, which is basically just a cav spear that fights in 2 ranks, heavy armor and shields, and then the Cathan Warhorse has barding. So this is a T3 unit with a 3-up armor save.
Yeah.
Moving on to the upgrades, we've got the full command. We've got any unit can have a magic standard for 50 points. A Jade Lancer officer.
Interesting tech pieces.
A Jade Lancer officer may purchase magic items up to a total of 50 points.
Hi, Ruby Ring.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Like, you can just do this in core. That's pretty wild. I can't think of any army that can put Ruby Ring in core with a unit that is just generically allowed to be in core. Obviously, if you go for High Elves, they can have Sisters of Avalon in core if the Handmaiden is the army general, but that's very limiting. This is just every Cathan army can go, oh, I want to have 50 points of magic items. Cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So one of them takes the mask and the other one takes the ruby ring, and they both got drilled.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
It's pretty decent.
Cool.
Speaking of, 0 to 1 unit per 1,000 points, which is probably as many as you're taking, because that's how many you can take in core, may have ambushes, may have drilled, and may have stubborn. All right, pretty good. Again, stubborn, a little bit expensive. We do like stubborn on Empire Knights, but that's 1 point per model. 2 points, and I'm going,
Yeah.
But drilled, I'm taking drilled every day of the week. That's really nice.
With my test games here, stubborn's always been a waste of points, because if these have lost combat, they're dead.
Yeah, that's super fair. Although, there is a world where you might take it, and that is because if we look at the special rules, let's just start out with the fact that they have Horde. Now, normally, you're capped...
I missed that!
So normally, you're
Why have they got Horde?
Well, normally, you're capped at 1 rank for cavalry. Infantry get 2, cavalry get 1. This gets you up to a 2nd rank, so you can run a big bus of Cathayan Lancers that fights in 2 ranks, gets, 2 ranks worth of static combat res. They've got other great rules in there. Obviously, close order, giving them +1 to combat res. Countercharge is really valuable when you're running that sort of unwieldy, beefy unit. Swift Stride, Will of the Dragons for the panic protection, and then Cathayan Cataphracts, which is when a unit in which the majority of the models have this special rule makes a follow-up move, the unit counts as having charged during the next turn. Why is that important? It's important so that you get to the strength and AP on the Cathayan Lancers. It's pretty
And
decent.
also, you get your 2. Would you also get your 2 inches for initiative there as well? Because normally you wouldn't on a follow up, would you? In that case,
Oh,
because that's interesting.
oh yeah, I guess. Yeah, I hadn't considered
So
that.
now you're pipping your opponent, and what's also very important is your gatemaster and gatekeeper. If they're on horses, they've got this rule.
Okay, spicy.
Which is why I'm thinking monkey staff, not awful. You know,
It's still awful.
not good. It's not good.
You'd be
It's
initiative
not
3. I
awful.
think you still strike behind everyone else, but I'm
Yeah,
not here to
props.
ruin your dreams of taking a really expensive
Into
magic
dragon
item.
ogres.
Hey,
Kills dragon ogres.
great. I'm so pleased for you.
Thank you. It's better
Anyway.
balanced.
Anyway, we'll move on now to the next unit, which is the Sky Lanterns, and I think you might be excited
My
about this one.
favourite.
So, I'm not even going to
Yes.
talk about this. Do you want to just do the full top to bottom? Talk about what the stats are. Talk about why they're good. I'll just leave
Yep.
it in your capable hands.
Okay, so we all know about war wagons and we all got really excited about them. This is a war wagon with fly.
Yep.
So it's strength 5, toughness 5, 7 wounds. Okay, it's got movement 1. Whatever.
Sure.
It's got 5 crew, 4 of which are gunners. It has a champion on it, which means it can challenge things out, which is just so funny. All the crew are ballistic skill 4, the champion's ballistic skill 5, and 2 attacks. That doesn't matter because we've only got hand weapons, so those 2 attacks don't really go anywhere that good. We've got a brand new base, boys and girls. 100 by 100. Now, there's one thing we really need to talk about here, which is how to use a model that is 100 mils wide. Tomb King players and Vampire Camp players have gotten good at this over the time, but the rest of us haven't. If you want to wheel 90 degrees with this model, it is over 5 inches.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like 5.8 inches to wheel 90 degrees.
man.
So you basically have to use these in a similar way to 40k planes. You're moving straight, you pivot. You move straight, you pivot. That kind of thing. So you've got to be careful with that. Then we've got our guns. So, armor value 4 up. So it's very much singing the same tune as the War Wagon right now. The lantern gunners and commander must take one of the following weapons. So you get crane guns or sky lantern crane guns. So that makes me think we're going to get a different type of crane gun down the line.
Mhm.
Iron hail guns and gunpowder bombs as one choice. So those 2 are free. Then you can upgrade your gunpowder bombs on your iron hails to dragon fire bombs if you want. Unfortunately, there's no way to take dragon fire bombs and crane guns, which is what I want to do. And then you've got sky lantern bombs, which are they work very similar to gyrocopter bombs.
So sorry,
Special rules with.
I just want to
go
jump
on.
in because those are really exciting. We'll get to the damage profile in a second. We've skipped something fairly important in terms of the defensive profile with the 4 armor save. What's the wounds and toughness of this model?
Oh, it's toughness 5 and 7 wounds.
Yeah, barely worth talking about.
And you can put character on it. It's we can get a 10 wound character model here with fly.
You can have the same wounds as a Chaos Dragon for, what, 215 points?
Yeah. You can give him an award for like 250. It's great. It's really good.
Yeah.
He's got close order too, which is phenomenal. So there's +1 combat res. Bam. Disengage. We'll get to that in a minute. This is probably the best rule in the game, I think, right now.
Pretty good.
Evasion wishes it was this good. Eye of the Dragon. I'll just go off of that one now. If you've got bombardment, you can do line of sight off of this model instead of you using your own. See, fired rain rockets can see the whole board, basically.
Yep.
Then you've got feigned flight and fire and flee. That's wild
What a
on a model
combo.
that's got fly because you can just sit in front of impassable terrain
Yeah.
and jump over the top of it.
Yep.
Cool. We've got fly 8, heavenly beacon we'll get to in a minute. Impact hits D3 +1, and we are a heavy chariot, so they're at AP2 at strength 5. Large target, reserve move and scouts, and unbreakable. Once again, this model is 135 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, so the special rules, what they do. Disengage. This is my new favourite thing.
Yeah.
I would recommend if you're going to be running balloons, read this piece of text like 4 times because you're going to miss a point in here. And I'll say where I keep messing up on this. So, should a model lose a round of combat, it may attempt to disengage by making a leadership test. So the first point here is you make your break test and then make your leadership test. If this test is passed, the model may fall back in good order rather than give ground. So this again compounds you need to take your break test first, because if you flee, you don't get to disengage. Enemy units can follow up as if this model had given ground, moving 2 inches directly towards this model, but cannot pursue it. So again, we've got another bit that's changing the rules here. Normally on a give ground, you'd only move straight forwards. You're falling back in good order, so you're going to pivot away from center and then move. The enemy unit will then pivot towards you, but only move 2 inches. However, if this test is failed, the model is unable to disengage and must give ground as normal. In addition, should it win a round of combat, you can choose to fall back in good order rather than making a follow-up or pursuit move. So how does this actually work? I go into combat, I've lost, I roll my leadership test, and it comes up as give ground on the dice. I've rolled low enough. I can fall back in good order instead of giving ground, but if by taking a leadership test, if I pass that leadership test, I have to give ground anyway. Luckily, we've got leadership coming out of the nose here, so that should be fine. And we're a toughness 5 model, so we should be okay.
Yep.
Winning combat, that last line, it ain't happening much. It's cool though if it does happen. So there's that. This is going to be an incredibly interesting rule to learn, and the people who learn this rule the best and the quickest are the ones who are going to be getting 5-0 at tournaments with Cathay in a few weeks' time. Heavenly Beacon. Unless this model is fleeing, friendly units within 12 may re-roll failed panic or rally tests, so it's kind of a BSB. In addition, whilst it's on the battlefield, unless fleeing, you may apply a +1 or a -1 to the result when rolling to determine to see if a friendly unit with ambushes that is currently held in reserves may arrive this turn. Finally, if a Lord Magistrate or a Strategist is mounted on a Sky Lantern, it only has command range 12. But that's all the time, so it means that even if they're not your general, they're command range 12, but it means that if they are, unfortunately, it's not 18, it is only 12. But it means that you can have BSBs everywhere.
Just before we move too far on, in terms of disengage, also remember that this unit's unbreakable. You don't have to take a break test. So
oh Christ! Yeah, you don't do break tests.
It's not a break test. It's a leadership test.
Sorry.
Yeah. So if you failed the leadership test, you just give ground. You never flee.
Yeah. Of course. Sorry.
It's
yeah.
So
of course.
silly.
I was playing that wrong yesterday.
It's
I forgot it was unbreakable because it has that many special rules.
So the risk involved is that you fail the leadership test, not a break test. So you're not taking negatives on there. You're just testing at your leadership 9 from the character that's mounted on top of it. If you fail that test, which is going to happen 1 in 6 of the time, you give ground because you're unbreakable. Otherwise, you get to be like, well, it sucks to be you. I'm going to fall back in good order. As long as I don't roll, a double 1 or a double 2, you then just don't catch me when you follow up. It's not follow up, sorry. You, what's it called? Oh, yeah, follow up.
Yeah,
not
follow up.
Pursue.
It is follow up.
Yeah, it's so hard to pin this thing in combat. I'm not really sure how
so
many
that's
armies
going to
can deal
leave
with
you.
them.
You don't have swift stride, so it's going to leave you probably between 1 inch and 4 inches away from the enemy.
Sure.
And your Sky Lantern bombs, which is the next thing we're going to talk about, that's got a 6-inch range, so that's phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
So you have to pay for this. It's 15 points, I believe this is. Yeah, 15 points for Sky Lantern bombs. So this is gyrocopters, but better.
Yeah.
So you may perform a bombing run against a single enemy unit that is not engaged in close combat with. To do so, the model must move within 6 inches of the unit it wishes to attack during the remaining move subphase, so no charging in doing this.
No charging.
Once the model's movement is complete, roll on the table below. So on a roll of a 1, you take a wound. On a roll of a 2, the enemy takes a wound. Just takes as well. On a roll of a 3 or a 4, you put a small template down in the middle of the unit, scatter it d6 inches, and then it's strength 5 AP2.
Sorry,
on
a large
5 or a
template.
6, do that twice. Large template, sorry. On a 5 or a 6, 2 small templates. The 2 small templates one is really scary. It's really scary because you're 6 inches away from them. You're not moving.
So you might hit yourself.
You only have to move past the unit during your remaining moves phase, but you're only movement 8, So you're probably not going that far away from them. It does mean you can do it and drop a bomb and leave, but just be careful with this. It's strength 5. It can and will hurt you. You know.
Yeah. On the upside, if it scatters onto you, you might take a single wound. It's unlikely to be fully on your base, so you've got the potential to be hitting a 4+, then you're wounded on a 4+, and then you've still got a save, and then you might have a ward save in there. So even just a normal balloon on its own has like roughly a 20-21% chance of taking a single wound if you're unlucky enough for it to scatter onto you. So that's funny to watch out for, and potentially you have a real comedy of errors where you put like 6 balloons over a single target, and all of them roll to 5 to 6, and all of them have both small blast templates scatter onto one single balloon and kill it. Almost impossible to happen, but it'd be really, really funny if it did.
I will do it for you.
Excellent.
So now the reason we take this thing is the guns. So we've got 2 options on here, and we've got the 2 grenades that we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
So the Iron Hail guns can go with either type of grenade. You can pay for the fire ones. So they're blunderbusses. They're range 12, strength 3, AP 1, move and shoot multiple shots D3, and they suffer no negative modifiers for long range, multiple shots, or whilst making a stand and shoot charge reaction. So the only time you're taking -1s to hit here is if you move, and if they're under cover or have a magical effect.
So there is a little bit of a downside to this gun. It's missing 1 rule, which is wild to say for how many rules it has.
Quick shot.
It
needs
have
quick
shot.
shot.
Yeah, but that's okay, because if you're taking this, you also have grenades, and the grenades have quick shot. So it's fine. Yeah, so it's not a problem.
It comes base.
Yeah.
It comes base with the no AP ones, and then you can pay 20 points and get 5. And I think you do. If you're going Iron Hail guns, you pay the 20 points and you go to the Dragonfire bombs, because they are terrifying for people to charge into.
Yeah. The only reason you wouldn't is if you don't have the 100 points to upgrade 5 models to have Dragonfire bombs.
Now we all know Richie. We all know Dowie After Dark. Lovely guy, great channel. Go and check him out if you've not seen him. Played a game against him last night, and he went, "Oh, I've countered your cannons, mate. My anvil. He's toughness 9, but he can only take 1 wound at a time." I went, "That's fine. I've got 3 balloons with crane guns." Dead turn 2. Because these things are horrific.
Yep.
Your ballistic skill 4 else 5, their strength 6, AP 2, armor bane 2.
Yep.
Now against this anvil, it was 6s to wound, but if I wound him, he was down to his ward save.
Sure.
These things rip through dragons, steam tanks, iron demons, bull tauruses. They destroy toughness 6 above, with very little impedance. With the amount of Plague of Rust you can get in your list as well, you don't even need the armor bane half the time.
Sure. This eats knights for
so
breakfast. Good. Now, there is a downside on the crane guns, because I like the crane guns thematically. They've got a long range, they've got really good strength, they've got really good AP armor bane. They cannot stand and shoot because they're cumbersome. And, if we look at them, you do not get a secondary gun with them. So if you're going for the crane guns, you are choosing to never make a stand and shoot reaction, which is a shame, because the stand and shoot is one of the scariest parts of them. But the Sky Lantern crane gun's so good!
Yeah, so what I quite like to do, in the list that I'm running at the moment, I'm running 3 balloons, all of them are in characters.
Yeah.
My Grand Magistrate, who is my super expensive one, who's also my general, he runs crane guns and sits in the centre of my line, hangs out near the artillery and my infantry, and can really range out with those crane guns. I've also just put the fire bombs on the Magistrate as a just in case. A unit of cav charges him or something like that. It's just something to do to deal a bit of damage.
Yeah.
Then I run 2 with Iron Hail Gunners and Fire Dragon Bombs. They sit in front of my line, in front of everything, and just block charges and do stand and shoots. So they're very good when used in concert with each other.
So there's a large Pegasus in the room that we should probably talk about. And here's the thing. I think Falconhorn's going to get nerfed. And up until this point, I've wanted it to get nerfed. I now don't know that I want it to get nerfed, because the Falconhorn existing would make this a very scary list to take to events. And why is that? Because it moves 1 and it has fly 8. So currently, Falconhorn, Banner of the Warped Moon, they both turn off fly very consistently, which means that this list loses a lot of ability to play. But I'm kind of expecting those to get nerfed to once per game, at which point they probably don't get taken, and at which point the lanterns are sort of free to rain terror down on their enemies.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
If we didn't have the artillery to go through still.
Sure. That's true.
Because the Cathay Grand Cannon provides the answer to that problem.
Oh, yeah, that's true, actually. Anyway, so before we move on to that, I do want to just talk a little bit about how these are actually going to be used. So, obviously, there's the crane guns, which are something that you can use very effectively at the back. And I might do a full video about this for the week on how this army might potentially play. But the one that interests me the most is if you're going for the iron hail guns and the dragon fire bombs, where you've got to be very close. Now, you pointed out correctly that if you want to do a 90-inch wheel, you're going to lose over half your movement to do so. That's pretty rough. However, these are heavy chariots that have reserve move. This is the most maneuverable, ungainly thing you'll ever see, because you're going to be moving 8 inches, shooting in a 360 because you have firing platform, because you are a heavy chariot, and then you're immediately going to be, at the end of the movement phase going, okay, and then I get to do another move and do a lumber. So, in theory, if your opponent isn't playing something like Pegasus Knights with 360 line-of-sight skirmishes, you can play the Gyrocopter game where you're just like, I'm going to be out of your charge arc, I'm going to be very close to you, I'm going to be peppering you, you turn to face me, I'm going to move, I'm going to shoot you, I'm going to move again, I'm out of your charge arc. I think this is going to be a very interesting puzzle for people to play around with in terms of not being able to be caught, because with that fly 8 you can also just fly over units depending on how things are positioned, and when you've got the double move you're going to be able to do that pretty consistently, I think.
Yeah, so there's one other thing, both the iron hail guns and the dragon fire bombs have got move and shoot.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can march 16 into the middle of your enemy's lines and just go and just shoot.
The way I see that working is that turn 1 you might want to march to get close enough to do the actual shooting. Turn 2, you probably don't march, you probably just start using the reserve move, because that gives you more flexibility to actually get forwards, position better, get a couple of lumbering moves in there as well. So, really flexible.
Turn 1, those iron hail guns have a 28-inch range, realistically.
Oof, that's pretty decent. Anyway, they're pretty good. I think we all know they're pretty good. Let's talk about the Cathayan Sentinel. Hell yeah, this thing's spicy. So it's a move 6 monster, so it's a little bit on the slower side, but it's not too bad. Weapon skill 5, which is really nice for a big beastie. Strength, toughness, wound 6, so good across the board. Initiative 3 is fine. 3 attacks. That feels low.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
You look at the stat line,
it's
you're
okay.
Like, hold on now. They're leadership 10 and they're 230 points. So they are pricey, but I think they're good enough that you might run them at this price point. They're not a gigantic spawn of chaos. They're not that sort of like, oh, this is way too good for the points cost. But they are solid enough that you can play them. And again, we are on the big dinner plate, the 100 by 150 mil. Behemoth, which is really nice because that mitigates the lower number of attacks where their stomp attacks do get AP. And they're equipped with a Great Blade and Terracotta Armor, which is heavy armor. So that's a little bit less defensive than I would like to see for the base model, I would say. I was kind of assuming that they'd come with full plate armor. However...
Yeah. It does seem to be the standard, though. Monsters seem to get heavy armor as a standard.
Yeah, and then we just don't see them. So I was hoping to see something a little bit more. But not to fear. There are, rules that we'll get there. So before we get to the options, comes with Close Order, Immune to Psychology, Implacable, which is once per game on a turn it was charged. It can choose not to give ground, and in addition, once per game, it may re-roll its charge roll. So, in this case, you are getting some consistency of getting in, even though you've got a slower movement, and you can lock up your opponent. So say they charge a target that you want to pin in, and they want to hit something, kill it, overrun, or have the potential to flee, so you can't catch them with Miao Ying, your dragon, for a flank charge. The Sentinel survives, you go, cool, I'm just going to not give ground. We're going to stay locked in combat, you lose all of your agency, you lose your ability to do any charge reactions. Job's a good one from my end there. I think that's a really nice rule. Large target is expected. Stomp attacks D3+1, bit lower than I'd like. After seeing the Necrosphinx's D3+2, it's hard to... Like, if you're going down to D3+, I just want D3+2, but that's maybe too consistent.
Yeah.
Terror, Timber, which is a rule that you'll forget and then have a great time with the one time that it comes up. And Unbreakable as well. So really sort of doubling down with that Implacable rule. Not too bad there.
Yeah. I see this as the thing we're going to compare this against in every way is the Necrosphinx.
Sure.
They're similar points costs and they're doing a similar kind of job. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I think the Necro comes out on top.
Oh, massively. The Necro is significantly cheaper, actually. I think it comes in at 215, so before upgrades. It comes with a regen base. It comes with better attacks.
This does too.
We
This comes
kind
with a regen
of...
base.
Yes, we'll talk about those upgrades in a second. I think... Yeah, but I think the Necrosphinx is just too good in terms of what it brings for its points cost. Or maybe it's the bar of what a monster should be at that sort of points cost.
I think the key difference here is the weapon skill. Necrosphinxes are quite often hitting on 5s.
Sure.
Or 4s against infantry. This thing's going to be able to hit the Chaos Dragon on a 4 or 3s versus infantry, so it's going to be a bit more efficient.
Well, it's interesting that you should say hit the Chaos Dragon, because you wouldn't think that this is the sort of model that would want to do that. Yes, it does. Its Great Blade has 2 modes of combat. Scything Blow, which is plus 2d3 extra attacks, which is wild. Strength user, so strength 6, AP minus 2, Armor Bane 1, strikes last. That's fine, I can live with that. Infantry or cavalry that you're going to be putting it into, probably not going to kill this model. So you take a little bit of damage, and then you do a big scything blow, and you kill basically the entirety of the front rank. Deadly Strike, though, strength plus 1, so strength 7, AP minus 4, Killing Blow, Monster Slayer, multiple wounds D3. Whew! That is wild. That is so good.
So you've only got 3 attacks, so most of the time, 2 of those are going to... between 1 and 2 are going to go through to wounds.
Yeah.
You're going to be wounding most things on 3s and 4s. So this is whiffy. I don't know about this one. Only having 3 attacks feels real bad here. 4, I'd be a real happier boy.
Here's where I disagree. Is this going to kill a dragon? A lot of the time, probably not. It's a little bit risky. It's kind of like the Gorgon in that respect, and I don't respect the Gorgon, so I can't look at this and go, well, this is an ultimate dragon killer. You know what? This is really nice. If you're in combat with an infantry or cavalry unit, which is realistically where this is probably going to end up, and that infantry or cavalry unit has any sort of character in there, whether it's a support character or whether it's a melee character, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Because you've got 100 mil base, you are going to be in base-to-base contact with that character, which means you can put all of your attacks into them. Which means, if you're going into a wizard, you're hitting on 3s, you're wounding on 2s. Either you get the Killing Blow, which is nice, or if you don't, multiple wounds do 3. On average, you get 2 hits, and then, probably 2 wounds. AP4, they better have a ward save, because you're going to do some real damage there.
Pretty good versus multi-wound cab and stuff, like Blood Knights. You get Demi-Griffs, things like that.
This is I would not want to be stuck into this with Dragon Ogres. The Dragon Ogres will win the fight over a long enough timescale. But if I spike, if I just go, oh hey, I rolled 2 6s and a 3, I go straight through your armor save, so I kill 2 of them and then one of them takes 2 damage. Alright, cool. So I win this combat. It's an exciting unit, I think. I like what they've done with it. It's still probably slow enough and not really tanky enough that maybe we don't see it in terms of like really competitive cutthroat lists, especially because the balloon exists. But I think the base is good enough that I want to play around with it, and I think it's a great model as well.
So, it's a shame as well that we couldn't just have some form of, I don't know, arcane urgency or travel mystical pathway built into it at something like a pound level 3.
Right, fine.
It's just a shame.
So, we've got some upgrades. You must be one of the following. So, base, your terracotta, and then you can be jade for 20 points, obsidian for 25, granite for 35, warpstone for 40. So, we start at 230 points, so you can have 2 of them at 2,000 points if you go terracotta or jade. If you start going up to... So, if you start going up to obsidian, granite, or warpstone, you can only have 2 in your rare slot, but, obviously, if you've got a longbow as your general, you can put, one of them to special, and that gives you more flexibility. So starting off, the base model is terracotta. They gain the 6-up regen rule. And I would like this if this was just native. Like, you just had a sentinel.
That should be baked in.
It wasn't a free upgrade. All of them just got a 6-up regen. I think that would be good. Because as it stands, I'm actually not super bothered about upgrading to anything else. Even though Jade Sentinel is super good, I kind of just look at the 230-point Terracotta Sentinel and go, maybe this is where I want to be. Speaking of Jade Sentinel, A Jade Sentinel knows a single spell, controlling by their controlling player before armies are deployed from either the battle magic or elementalism lore of magic. It may cast this bound spell as a power level 3. Wait, hold on. Is this just a better unit of Sister of the Thorn? No, because Sister of the Thorn are really cheap.
I'm pretty sure
and it was power level 2.
I'm pretty sure you're always taking TMP or Arcane Urgency on this thing.
Probably, yeah. To get
right. I've heard people being like, "Oh, Wind Blast, oh, Fireball." No, I want my monster in combat, please. Yeah. Like, yeah.
So you could go 2 of these in rare, and you could have like a beefy sort of counterpunch unit that also does extra magic missiles if you're going down the Miao Ying and Longmer magic output list. But you could just take the artillery if you wanted to do that, and I think that's better. But yeah, like you say, I think a mobility spell on this thing is really nice, because being able to march 24 inches in one turn and just put it aggressively far forwards, that is something I value. So I do like the Jade Sentinel in that respect, but it does become a little bit squishier, so I do resent that I lose the regen if I want to be aggressive with my model.
It is less points to do this than make your level 1 wizard a level 2.
True, that's true. Obsidian Sentinel. The Obsidian Sentinel has magic resist 2, and any enemy wizard that wants to cast a spell within 12 inches of one or more Obsidian Sentinels must make a leadership test. If failed, you're casting at -3, and if it's passed, you're casting at -1. So if they want to cast a spell on the Obsidian Sentinel, say they want to Miasmic Mirage it, and they fail the leadership test, they are rolling at -5. Even Mortuary Cult will start to struggle a little bit, because they could only get up to a maximum of +3, I guess, or +2. +3, because of the
I like this one a lot. Points wise, it feels very generous for the points cost. Only 25 points to do this, but it doesn't protect itself. So I feel like we're not going to see this one outside of fluffy games.
I think so. Granite Sentinel. Improve the armor save by 1, so you get a 4-up armor save, but you, again, reminder, you've lost the regen, so it's not actually much of a defensive buff there.
But that's okay.
Immune to multiple wounds X special rule, and if it takes that, it just loses a single wound. So basically, this is the Sentinel that can't be cannoned.
This is the one I run over I actually prefer this one over the regen one, because I think the regen on a 6-up is going to appear so infrequently. This just straight up goes, I'm going to walk forwards. What, you got 3 cannons? Cool, that's 2 turns of being at me and not the rest of my army.
Yeah.
If you want to try this, or 1 turn if you Cathay. But I actually prefer that one. And if I'm going to be running Sentinels, I'm going to be running a Shigengan Lord and 2 of these, 1 in special, 1 in rare. I love them.
Yeah, so it is tankier, but is it 35 points per model better? I'm not sure. I think it's worth testing around with, yeah. But I look at it and I go, the regen, just having that for free, I value that so highly compared to paying a lot of points for what I would consider maybe a side grade in some ways to the defensive output. But Warpstone Sentinel. Warpstone Sentinel has magic attacks. This is good. In addition, while in base contact with 1 or more Warpstone Sentinels, they suffer -1 to their toughness characteristic to a minimum of 1. It's fine.
I wish this had a line at the end, and also Warpfire Dragons hate them, or something like that. It just feels like these are the natural enemies of Warpfire Dragons.
Sure.
And they should
I don't know that I want to give a buff to a Warpfire Dragon in the Cathan Arcane Journal.
Oh, no, sorry. These have hatred versus them.
Oh,
I see. Sorry. Yeah. They just feel like they're natural enemies, because these are the good version of Warpstone. I don't know. They're cool. I'm never taking it, but they're cool.
Yeah, they are cool. And, I'm really looking forward to seeing some incredibly well-painted Warpstone Sentinels. I think that's going to be awesome. Even if you don't want to run them as the Warpstone Sentinels, paint them that way and show me, because they look great.
I don't mean to poo-poo them at all, the Cathayan Sentinels. I've got 2. They're the first things I painted, like giant ones. They're going to be very, very hard to get into the list because of the next thing we're going to talk about.
Well, I guess just to very, very quickly before we move on, I absolutely rag on rare and special monsters like all the time. We have, in Fix My List that I do on Fridays, people will be like, oh, I want to take this Gorgon. I'm like, you should not do that. If you like the model, take it, but you understand that you're limiting yourself. I can see someone taking these. Like, these are close enough to being playable that I think, yes, it is a hindrance to your list, but that doesn't matter so much. You can take these and not be not punished, but it's way less of a negative in my eyes compared to something like taking a Cygor or taking, a Jabba Slythe or something like that. These feel a lot more playable than like the Beastman monster specifically, which is nice. Not everything has to be super cutthroat competitive. You can have these and go, this probably doesn't make my tournament list, but if I take them to my my local store to play and I put down 3 of them, if I play into an optimized list, these things are going to do some real work, and I'm going to be happy about it, and I've got a really fun, sort of flavorful list.
Yeah. Grand
Cannons. Fun and flavorful. 130 points. Man, that's a pricey cannon. I can't imagine anyone will take these. They're also only T6, a little bit lower toughness. They've got 3 wounds.
Unusable.
Then you've got the crew, which is, as you might expect there. Leadership 7 for them, so again, just a little bit better than Empire cannons. It's a war machine on a 60 by 100 mil base, which is frankly massive. So there is a genuine downside to that. These are harder to fit in your back line where you've got multiple of them. So there is a little bit of downside there.
You will find a way, though. You will find a way.
You're also going to find a way to put the Ogre Loader in, but we'll get to him specifically in a second. Grand Cannon, 48-inch range, so it's a shorter range. Strength 10, AP 3, Armor Bane 3. Why does this exist? We're capped at 2 up armor saves. Why did they make it so that if you had a 1-up save, you can't get it? It just doesn't make sense. And
future-proofing.
Yeah, sure. Cannon fire, we know how cannons work. Cumbersome, can't stand and shoot, of course. Move or shoot, of course. Multiple wounds D3+1, yep, this is, just the best version of damage in the game for any artillery, so good stuff there. Thunderous impact. I don't remember that rule from the base rulebook. Oh, it's down below Grand Cannon special rules. Let's have a look. So until your next start of turn subphase, any unit, friend or foe, that was within 2d6 of the strike point where a Cathayan Grand Cannon shoots suffers a -1 modifier to its movement characteristic and cannot use the Swift Stride special rule. Well, that seems pretty good.
We have been usurped. We have had our things taken away from us. This doesn't fit on my headphones properly, but I am speaking from the Chaos Dwarves here, having less of this, so the hat doesn't fit. But,
no, also, for your own good to take it off, it's 30 degrees.
It's too hot, but yeah, with my metaphorical Chaos Dwarf hat on now, what the fuck? What the fuck, man?
Oh, it's pretty good, eh?
Where's the slow load? Where's I can't fire at a roll of a 1 of a 2?
Well, it must have slow reload because it's got an Ogre Loader, right? And that's what Ogre Loader does.
That must be the reason for it.
Sure.
Yeah, you put the Ogre Loader on it so that I can maybe fire my gun every turn.
The rule must be on the next page. Let me just scroll down. Well, it's okay, Tom. We're gonna be okay. So there's no more rules on this page. We'll go to the Ogre Loader. Okay, so it's plus 35 points, and it's an Ogre stat line. Cool, great. You can buy gunpowder bombs, which you also have enough for everyone, so that gives them to the war machine. That's kind of cool. I don't hate that. You can just give gunpowder bombs.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Gives them a stand and shoot if they want to, which is something that cannons typically don't have. And if we see, like, an artillery meta, which we're going to, where we might see people start to run units like Harpies or Warhounds, but not put them in, a marching column and use them to try and get around the sides, or Great Eagles, where you're like, okay, we're going to go and hunt down these cannons as fast as possible. Having a stand and shoot is pretty nice for that. I'm not upset to see stand and shoot.
4d3 shots as well. 4d3 shots on stand and shoot.
Yeah, and then you've got, a beefy Ogre Loader that makes 3 attacks, which, it's only got a hand weapon, but it's strength 4, so the things that are going in, they don't have armor saves anyway. Who cares? It's fine.
No.
Anyway, so, okay, sure. Well, surely the rule about them having to reload is going to be in here. Mercenary crew. Here we go. Mercenary crew. That sounds bad, because we know that mercenaries are liable to not do things. On a roll of a d6, a mercenary will just, not behave correctly. So, sure, let's read this. So, they're a special type of character. Okay, so they can challenge, and they can keep the crew safe from a dragon.
I didn't even know that bit! I misread that bit! They're getting even better. These are the exact same points as Ogre Loaders for Chaos Dwarves, by the way.
It's fine. Don't stress about it. We're going to get to the bad bit, sure. I'm sure. So they can be taken as upgrade to accompany a specific war machine, sure. During deployment, position the Ogre Loader with its war machine as you would a character that's joined the unit, and it can't leave the war machine. Okay, that's pretty limited. The crew gains a +1 modifier to the movement characteristic and the stubborn special rule. Oh, that's pretty good. In addition, once per game, a fire rain rocket battery or Cathayan Grand Cannon that includes an Ogre Loader may fire twice during the shooting phase. or reroll a single artillery. Tom, what's going on?
Okay, it's not there. Oh, right. So two things. Firstly, I didn't realise that they're champions. Effectively, that's sick. Secondly, this is the only crew in the game that actually has table presence.
Yeah.
So he does exist. So now you've got not just 100 by 60, it's now 100 by 60 by 40 by 40. So you've got an L-shaped or a very long cannon. So you've got to be careful on that. But I can tell you now, this is the funniest thing in the game, because Thunderous Impact from before, that means you can drop a unit's, so the strike point, so basically at the end of the first dice, when you're rolling a cannon, everything within 2d6 drops its movement by 1 and can't use Swift Stride. Then you do that twice with 3 cannons. So now you've just dropped that thing, if it's still alive, by -6 movement.
Yeah.
I'm pretty annoyed. Also, the last bit of Chaos Dwarves hate for this artillery piece, it comes back on the next one. This is cheaper than a Dreadquake.
Yeah.
By quite a lot of points cheaper than a Dreadquake, and it's a cannon, not a stone thrower.
Yep.
And it's strength 10, not 6.
Yep.
But it's okay, because Chaos Dwarves, they get to keep D6 wounds on stone throwers. Cathay, they don't have that, so Chaos Dwarves get to keep D6 wounds. So it's okay.
That one is actually worse than Chaos. So we're not going to worry too much. So let's have a quick look at the Fire Rain Rocket Battery. So again, it's artillery, it's got the same stat line, 130 points, sure. We know how all this works. Let's get to the weapons. You choose one of the 2 different rockets. So it's got, it fires a stone thrower. So it's got a 12 to 40-inch range, small blast template, 3-inch blast here, which is strength 4, AP 1, armor bane 1. So that's a pretty good stone thrower just at rate if you're looking to kill artillery, infantry, or cavalry. Here's the thing, with the way blast templates work, they're actually pretty inefficient at killing things because of the partial hits in this edition, so that's kind of whatever. Bombardment, but we know that if you've got balloons, which you will, you get to use their line of sight, so you're pretty accurate with the shooting. Multiple wounds D6 and strength 5 AP 3 on the central hull. So this is a high damage, but I'm actually not bothered by that, because yes, your strength 5 AP 3, you're only wounding dragons on 5s. I'm not really concerned about that. It's funny that it exists, especially as someone who has played so many Chaos Dwarf games as you have, and you go, but they've just taken my stuff. It is a worse version. The strength 5 here and strength 6.
No, it's better. It's better. It is actually better. The Chaos Dwarf one, strength 3 on the outside with no AP, and on the other one it gets no AP anywhere. So this one is actually better.
Sure, sorry. So
it just loses one pip of strength off the very centre, which will never hit anything anyway because it's a stone thrower.
So in what I would envision this being used for, which is not killing infantry, because killing infantry it's not very good at, just in terms of you don't hit that many things. If you're using this to try and snipe dragons with D6 wounds, it's worse, and that's kind of the use case that I see for stone throwers more than anything else. But you're right, we have got a large blast template, which is the rocket battery, strength 3 AP 1, or strength 4 AP 1 for the central hull, armor bane 1, flaming attacks, wailing spirits. We're also ripping off undead, hey?
Oh no, that's straight what the Chaos Dwarf one does.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Like, that's exactly what the Chaos Dwarf one does, yeah. Ours is just called incendiary ammunition.
Any unit that suffers 1 or more unsafe wounds from this weapon must take panic tests as if it has taken heavy casualties. And this thing probably can actually deal with infantry. Strength 3 AP 1 armor bane 1 is a pretty decent pie plate to put on top of, even Chaos Warriors, and it's going to take its pound of flesh, I think.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I will say, though, that these are definitely subpar compared to the cannon.
Yeah.
I started off with 3 in my list, then 2, then now there's none, I don't think.
The problem is, they're very good. Both bits of artillery are good, but they're very pricey. They're, in terms of the the core factions, I don't think there's any artillery that costs this much. Obviously, Chaos Dwarves do have expensive artillery, and the Hell Cannon technically exists, but we don't talk about the Hell Cannon. But if we talk about real, actual guns, a lot of stuff sits at that 100 points for a Bombard, for a Trebuchet, 105 points or 115 points for a Hellblaster volley gun. 130 points is out of the range of points, so it is expensive, which means that while, yes, you probably are taking 3 cannons, you won't also be taking 2 rocket batteries as well.
Yeah. I don't think the cannon's undercosted. I think the Ogre Loader is, though.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's super fair. Like, I actually... yeah, 130 points probably feels about right for the cannon. But yes, the Ogre Loader being able to shoot twice is pretty oppressive. And that takes us to the end of the units, which is a pretty good spread. So let's have a quick look through at the magic items, because this is the spice that really just sells the army, I think. Now, we're going to go through, and of course, we don't need to spend much time on magic weapons. Magic weapons are always terrible, right? Nope! These ones are great!
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I mean, even the big one is edge case usable, you know?
Not even edge case, genuinely. I think you can run... and I know I've said this a lot. You can run double spectral doppelganger casters, and you take the 2 expensive items here, and you're genuinely very happy about that. So, the Monkey's King's Wisdom, or the Monkey Club, as everyone will be calling it, 75 points. It is Strength 10, AP -4, multiple wounds D3, 2 hand strikes, last magical attacks. This is like the...
It's a cannon.
This is like the Empire weapon, which has 2 modes, the Staff of Hellstrom, or whatever it's called.
Mace of Hellstrom,
which you can only make a single attack at Strength 10. This is just like, just make all the attacks. Yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah. I think it might be... I wouldn't be shocked if it's cheaper as well, just, to really rub salt in the wound.
It might be. I'm not going to check, because I think I might be genuinely sad if it is. But yeah, this is wild. You can put it on a high magic longmer. You can put it on a spectral doppelganger longmer.
A gate master on a horse, if you feel brave.
You technically can, but 3 attacks is like very expensive for 3 attacks, and also they don't have a...
You could put this on a balloon. You could put it on a balloon and just be funny.
Yeah, 2 attacks. Don't do that. I mean, if you want to do it, do, but don't expect it to be good. Yeah, this thing's just beefy. This is, Ogre plays Seething. They're looking at this and going, but my Tenderize is only strength, 8 or whatever it is. Where's my strength 10? AP4 as well is so good. So good, because you just don't get a save. You've got a 2-up, 3-up, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I guess technically you need AP5 to stop a 2-up save. But sure, this is just going to do real damage to things, and I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah. I think this next one is going to be in every single competitive Cathay list.
I've seen people writing this off. I think this is so good. I talked about this yesterday. Jade Blade the Great Fleet, 70 points, Strength +2, AP -2, Armor Bane 1. It's a great weapon that doesn't take 2 hands, and it doesn't, give you strikes last. Also, it gives you the 5-up regen rule, and it is the only way to get regen in this army. This thing is so good. I said yesterday I would play this on all of my armies. Maybe even High Elves, potentially, because it's hard to get a good weapon and also get a good save. So for High Elves, I'd take this and, Dragon Helm and... probably Talisman Protection. So you've got your triple save, but you've still got a 3-up armor save with hand weapon shield equivalent. Yeah, this thing's just nuts. It's so good.
I want to see the Lumbrian sea monster this thing came from, because this is just its tooth.
yeah, that's true. It must be beefy, but I guess it's technically not big. It's just magical, right? But this is so good. It doesn't do multiple wounds. That's the only thing that it's lacking. But against anything, against anything that you're not like. You're not going to do super well into a dragon with this, because you don't have the punch to get through it. But it's going to make you so much more survivable. You will cleave through rank and file. You can cast the Yang spell that gives you +1 strength and weapon skill, so you'd be weapon skill 7 and strength 7, and you can just cleave through, I don't know, toughness 5
Most
things. Yeah, if you see Treekin better be on notice. You're going to chop through him.
Yeah.
Yeah, those Treekin better watch out. But yeah, no, Jade Blade, the Little Great Fleet, is a fantastic weapon, and I really like it, and I'm going to be running it. Spirit Longma Spear, 25 points. This is a normal spear, so Cav monster chariot only, strength and AP only on the turn at charge, strength +1, armor bane 1, as you'd expect from the spear, AP 3, and then magical attacks. This is fine. This is a good cheap weapon. If you do want to go for a Gate Master, this is probably the best thing to put on them, because you're going to be getting the additional AP there, and you can buff your strength and your weapon skill with spells and winds. It's fine.
Good on the baby Longma. Good on the baby Longma too. You know?
I don't hate this at all. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a 25-point magic weapon that you probably take. Like, you compare it to, like, Sword of Might and Biting Blade, which are a little bit cheaper, but just way, way less good. Yeah. I generally don't love going for weapons that lose their strength and AP after the round 1 of combat, because I find I end up in a lot of grindy combats. But, yeah, it's not bad. You're paying 25 points for it. It's pretty decent. And then finally, there's the Sun and Moon Blades, which is, I think, playable for 20 points. So it's strength user, AP -1, extra attack 1, and if you're struck a killing blow on a 4+, you don't get killing blows. Just ignore this. But, like, what if you wanted to just put a little bit of, like, actual punch into your unit? For 20 points, if you're worried about ethereal, you get magical attacks. That's the main reason that I see this, because you probably otherwise just go for, like, the normal strength +1, AP1 blade that you can get. But if you're worried about ethereal, you take this, you get an extra attack. It's below 50 points, which is where extra attacks are most valuable, because you can put it on your hero level characters. You can just have, you know, a cheap character that punches, not hard, but, like, adds volume of attacks there, and then you put extra strength on them from the spell. It's fine.
Yeah, I actually like this the most on the Logma, because it can't take a shield, so you're not losing anything with the required 2 hands.
Yeah, if you're going for the level 1... like just the regular
the little cheap
Lord.
one.
Yeah. Not the Shungan Lord, sorry, the
little cheap one.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And, you know, ethereal is a real problem, that if you're going multiple, you know, MSU cheap monsters, ethereal's something you've got to worry about, and this deals with ethereal really well. So yeah, this is cool. Yeah. I'd take this over.
I'd take that over a Sword of Might. You know,
over
a Biting Blade, over a Sword of Might. Yeah.
It's just good. That's wild. We've got 3 weapons that range from, like, decent to very good. I don't think I've seen that before. That's really nice. Magic armor. We've got the Armor of the Warbird, the only armor we've got here. Nope, I'm telling you lies. I can't read. The only wearable armor. The other one's a shield.
Yeah.
So infantry or heavy infantry only. It's heavy armor. It gives you countercharge, fly, and swift stride, and you can't join units. This is so good. I don't know what I put it on, but...
This was the Gate Master build I was talking about.
Yeah.
So this is the one edge case I can actually see in using him.
Yeah.
Is you put this on him and the Headsman's Axe, and go around hunting wizards.
That's pretty.
Or the Spell Eater Axe, you know. And if anyone does like a unit of cav tags you down, you've got countercharge. Rock on in.
Yeah. You know what this will do?
So
this hunts artillery pretty well.
So I actually really like this on a Gate Master plus something else.
Yeah.
So you've got 3 attacks, you can do something, and you're such a tiny base that you can do something fun. As and when we get Shugengans on foot, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, right now I don't know that there's a model that I really want to put it on, but as you point out, if we get additional models that we, you know, better melee characters that you want to put this on, I think that's pretty cool. Shield of Nangao. It's a shield, and if you were charged, you improve your armor's value, the bearer's armor value by 2 to a maximum of 2+. Now, keep in mind, this doesn't say instead of the +1 you normally get. So I believe if you're charged and you have the shield, you get +3 to your save from this shield, because it doesn't say replacing the normal +1. Yeah.
This is phenomenal on your Jade Warrior champions, because if they're charged, they're now at a 2-up save, re-rolling 1.
Oh, yeah!
Great.
So you can't stack combat res with this army to beat a dragon, but what you can do is put this on your unit champion so that they charge, they don't max overkill, and then you win on combat res anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really
it's pretty
funny.
sexy.
Yeah, that's fun. I like that for 20 points. Probably not putting it on a character, especially because the Shugenghan Lords can't take it. But
no,
yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's very fun. Talismans, Crystal of Kunlan, 35 points. It gives you a 5-up ward save, and if you roll a natural 6 when making that ward save, every enemy model in base contact with the bearer suffers a strength 3 hit at AP 0 with flaming attacks. Do I think that the hits...
Balloon! Yeah, this is great. Puts on your 100 mil base.
Yeah. So this is 35 points, so it's 5 points more than a Talisman Protection. You already have a built-in ward save on your Shugenghan Lord and Miao Ying. Not that Miao Ying could take this. But yeah, this goes on a balloon. It's going to be in base-to-base with theoretically 6 infantry models. Is it going to do much damage? No, of course it's not. Is it really funny? Yes, of course it is. Is it a second ward save that you can take when otherwise you might only have a talisman protection? Great. There we go. That's 2 balloons with ward saves. Jobs are good.
And the third one is underneath. It's great.
The third one is... Yes, yeah. So Crown of Jade, 20 points. It gives you a 4-up ward save against any wounds suffered by a magic missile, magical vortex, or assailment. So if you're against a dwarf gun line, you go, oh, balls. I don't have a ward save. But if you're against, the sort of shooting that we often see, which is, here's my Empire list that's got some cannons, sure, but also has triple battle magic caster. Depending on how you position it, you can potentially, yeah.
But do you know what fits in perfectly with this? Armor of Meteoric Iron for the other side.
Okay,
Cool.
so you've kind of got a 5-up armor save anyway.
Yeah. So you'd put a Armor of Meteoric Iron, Crown of Jade on a strategist on a balloon, and put him in the middle of the board, and just do this.
That's pretty cool. So I think in terms of if you're playing against like cannons, for example, what you probably end up doing is, because the balloons are large targets, you use them to block the one that is weak to cannons. So, you have the one with ward saves in front of it, and then you just go, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? You've got to kill the 10 wound character with a 5-up ward save with your cannons before you can hit the one that doesn't have a ward save to your cannon fire.
Should be the tagline of the book, Cathay. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, I've got balloons. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. And what, mate? And what?
Yeah. Magic standards. You've got the standard of Wei Xin, 40 points. You cause fear, and enemy units within 12 suffer -1 to leadership when taking fear, panic, or terror tests. It's decent.
I love this. Yeah, I love this on my unit of Jade Warriors, because that means if they are getting charged by a dragon, no, I'm not taking a terror test.
I like this. Do I want to pay 40 points for it? Maybe. It's coming out of core. It feels a little bit pricey for what I'm doing unless I'm building synergies into my list, but then it's kind of hard to do. So I think where I would like to see this is comboing it with an item we're yet to get to and putting it on Jade Lancers, because the Jade Lancers can aggressively push forwards to give that aura of -2 terror tests. That's probably where I'd see it. But I think just giving your big brick of Jade Warriors, if you're going for not necessarily a Death Star, but a big unit, giving them protection from fear and terror, very, very strong. And then also just, if you've got a big unit, fear tests, your opponent's going to find it harder to hit you. You can get up to weapon skill 7, so they might be hitting you on 5s. If they cause fear, they might be being hit on 6s. Suddenly that unit's not going anywhere, which is really funny. So some interesting combos there. Icon of Heavenly Fury, 35 points, single use. A unit carrying this activates it in the command phase. Until your next starter's turn subphase, enemy units cannot use the fly special rule.
They finally learned, Edward. They finally learned how to put the word single use next to no fly.
Oh yeah. It's what a shame that it's not extremely common. Just take.
What a shame that you don't need a test on this one, and all the other ones you do. This is just a button.
Yeah, this is what I'm hoping that all of those turn-off fly items become. Skaven already have it this way. Obviously, Beastmen and Pegasus Knights, Bretonnians, there we go, can use it multiple times. So I'm hoping that with the FAQ that's coming in 2 weeks, that we just see them all standardized to this template. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Dragon Eye Banner for 30 points. When an enemy wizard chooses the target unit carrying this banner, on a 3+, the controlling player must choose another target. If there's no other visible target in range, the spell cannot be cast. This is a death spell.
By law, I feel that this means that the glowy green amulet is the eye of an Cathayan dragon.
Makes sense.
Saying.
Makes sense.
Because that's glowy green on a banner.
Yeah. I don't hate it. This is very conditional. If you've got a big Death Star that you want to keep safe from spells, this is probably worth picking up. Otherwise, magic resist is probably better, but yeah, it's not bad. And then finally, Banner of the Bastion for 25 points. The unit carrying the banner gains the Shield Wall special rule. Do you want to point out to me what you realised in the chat when we were talking about this?
You can have cavalry with Shield Wall. You could also... that's just dumb.
You can have,
but yeah, you can
have a horde unit of Jade Lancers that have Stubborn and Shield Wall.
Yeah, and if anything on the balloon can ever take a banner, now it can have every single combat keyword for the fleet phase.
Sure.
So yeah,
it would be completely unusable because it's unbreakable, but you could theoretically give it more keywords because funny. So I don't hate that at all.
Yeah.
These banners are fine. They're quite conditional. The build-arounds, I'm probably looking at taking War Banner in this list as my number one priority, but there's stuff that you can put in here. So these are fine, and not every aspect of this book has to be eyes popping out my head. Ooh! So it's
For me, the litmus test on Magic Banners is the Razor Standard.
Yeah.
Because everyone's taking War Banner anyway, and then Razor Standard's kind of the one that you look at next on the common list. I think all of those are more takeable than the Razor Standard. So for me, they pass the test.
That's fair. That's fair. Enchanted items. We've got the Moor Shard. So, if you want, to be excited about references of Ogre Kingdoms, here we go. Here's a reference to Ogre Kingdoms. For 40 points, enemy wizards that roll natural doubles within 18 inches of the bearer, miscast, regardless of the casting result. It's pretty good.
So does that mean Lady Elise Duchard was trained by ogres?
Yes. That's exactly what that means. You know what else it means?
Yeah.
You can take a cheap level 1 Shigangan.
Yeah, for sure.
Put a 40 point on it. You've already got, a 3 up armor save and a 5 up ward, so you're tanky enough that you won't just immediately be picked off. And you go, you want to roll that spell, do you? You really want to roll that spell, do you?
Yeah, I like this on a balloon, to be honest with you.
Oh, sure.
It's just an enchanted item.
Yeah.
And you've got a big old base.
This is where the Grand Magistrate really comes into their own, because they can take this and a ward save, I guess.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And the next item, which
Alchemist
is amazing
Mask,
on balloons.
35 points. The bearer of the Alchemist Mask can cast the Plague of Rust spell from the Law of Elementalism as a bound spell with a power level of 3. Wait, hold on. They forgot to put single use in here. No!
They did.
No!
They really did. So this goes on your balloons, or this goes on your unit of cavalry, because they can take 50 points worth of items. In fact, the Moor Shard's really good on your unit of cavalry as well.
Ooh, that's true, actually. Okay.
Yeah. This next one turns balloons into something insane. Yes. Oh my days, this is so good.
Do you look at Cathay and go, well, this is pretty cool, but I wish it was more Studio Ghibli? Well, you can have a Spirit Lantern. For only 25 points, you can upgrade any model carrying a Spirit Lantern to cause terror. In addition, they also reroll any rolls to wound of a natural 1 against enemy models that are demonic or undead. That has layers to it. Let's unpeel those layers. First of all, terror. You can do a terror bomb list. This is an extremely common item. You can take it on anything that is able to take 25 points of magic items, and you have multiple different ways of debuffing enemy leadership in terms of terror tests. It's not as good as a necromancy army, but you can put terror bomb aspects in. On top of that, you reroll rules of a 1 against demonic and undead. So that means the things that aren't going to be afraid of you, sure, you've got additional bonuses. If you're coming up against undead, which is a big chunk of the meta at the moment, do you maybe want your entire balloon with 5 guns to be able to re-roll all of their 1s to wound against a big unit?
It's the bombing run. It's the bombing run as well.
Sure. It's everything.
So that templates that are going everywhere, it's impact hits. Oh my god, this is insane.
It's really nice.
I would argue as well that this is spells cast as well.
I
so
was
if
just
you
about
put this
to say
onto a blaster caster wizard, like, my lord. There is a world in which you just go, oh, cool, so Cathan can only take 75 points of magic items on all their big characters, because this auto goes on half of them.
I think I like the enthusiasm there. I'm not sure I end up auto putting it on. I really, really like it. I'm playing around with, like, even a battle magic caster where you're going, I want to get Pillar of Fire, Fireball, the Yang magic missile, a 4th spell, and then also on top of that I've got Spirit Lantern, so I can flex into, like, trying to charge terror cause things off the board, or if I'm against undead, I just get a little bit bang for my buck with my range spells, which is where range spells really struggle to do damage, or to do meaningful damage, because undead will heal back up. And then also if you're demons, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you just buggered first.
Well, the demons are anyway. Yeah, really good.
But also, my silly little Flying Gate Master build, you put this on him, and then he can just make a unit of 50 Chaos Warriors run away.
Fortunately, there's only 2,000 points, and we'll find, over the coming week when I'm writing lists and playing them, you struggle to fit all the things you want in, because there's so much in here that you really want, and I think you need to go a little bit boys over toys. It's nice to get all the upgrades, but just getting, like, for example, a 5th or 6th balloon instead of spending 100 points on making 4 of them cause terror, there's definite, like, balancing to be done, and I like this, but I think it's maybe a little bit, I'm not going to say too pricey, but I don't know that it's spammable just in terms of how expensive everything else that you want to fit in ends up being.
That's fine. All my balloons are being dragon turtles, so they have to have this so that they look like they cause terror.
I respect that.
Yeah.
Arcane items. These are bangers. I like these. Cloak of Pomei, 50 points. This is it's fine. In addition to your randomly generated spells, you know all 3 spells from the lore of Yin or Yang that you choose by the controlling player. However, they can only cast a number of spells equal to their lore of wizardry per turn. Here's the thing. This doesn't say that it is the one that you choose. So
so you can roll one and choose the others with this.
You can have you roll your 4 spells from your signature lore, and you end up with 4 signature spells, 1 from the lore of Yin and 3 from the lore of Yang, or vice versa. And
Phenomenal.
Also, something that I missed with yesterday's video is if we look at the elemental winds down here, so you only get the buff depending on which lore you've picked. So if you have the lore of Yang, you're getting plus to your movement. You're getting plus to your dispel range and plus to the range of your enchantment spells. That's really, really nice, and I don't think we actually talked about that enough earlier on. But you don't get plus range to your magic missiles, and lore of Yang is the one with the magic missile in. What if you take this item and you take the Winds of Yin as your spell lore, your signature spell lore, but then you also take the Cloak of Pomei, so you get the additional magic missile, and then you also get the bonus range to the Hex and magic missile spells.
Oh, you'd get benefit. Yeah, this item lets you benefit from both sides. Yeah, interesting.
Well, you wouldn't
really
benefit
like
from both sides because you don't get the.
No,
you don't
but
actually get the
you
lore.
wouldn't get the straight buff.
But you
yeah,
build
you'd
them
get.
so
You
that
would receive a benefit.
You build them so you get the extra range on your magic missiles on the caster that's going to be running all the magic missiles. So I think there's something there.
Love it.
50 points is a lot. I think this is worth taking at 50 points. Especially when we combine it with, just to skip to the end, the Learned Feng Shi Bo. For 15 points, you know +1 spell.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you want to know what's wild about that?
It's extremely common. And
Where's the 0 to 1 per wizard?
Yeah.
Where's that? Where's the 0 to 1 per wizard?
So just looking at this, does the wording stop it from stacking? Because you know 1 more spell than is normal for the level of wizardry. Does it? It doesn't say you know +1 spell. It says you know 1 more. I don't know the exact wording. Because if you
maybe
have 2
actually
of them,
the word 1, not an additional. If it was an additional, then but 1 more.
I wonder if it's just that you know 1 more spell twice, which wouldn't necessarily stack. This is an English language question. This is not a rules question. So I think I want to see this FAQ'd, and I know that if they do put this in their FAQ, they're going to be really sarky about it, because they're like, oh, it's obvious how it interacts. I don't think it is obvious. Or I'm stupid. One of those is true. You know, who can say? But yeah, I'm not 100% sure that you can take 2 of these. But if you can take 2 of these and, you know, have the benefit of just knowing +2 spells, your level 4 wizard knows all 6 spells.
Yeah.
That's a better lore for
at least the one. So the other one, the one we haven't spoken about, the other arcane item, has a similar language problem in does it stack? I don't know.
This one does. So this one is Guardian Feng Shi Bo, 35 points. Any enemy that directs its... oh, no, it doesn't, sorry. And I'll say why. So it directs its attacks against the owner of a Feng Shi Bo in combat suffers -1 to hit. And it's because it's the owner of this item. So it's not if you have this item, it's -1. It's just if someone attacks someone who owns one of these items, then -1. So...
Yeah. I remember back in the days when I used to play 40k, I used to play orcs a lot, and there was a question which every single new person asked, which was, does my dreadnought get 19 attacks? Because each of the things says it gets +4 attacks. This is going to be their version of this question. So everyone who starts Cathay is going to be like, do I get -4 to hit if I stack this 4 times?
Looking back at the Learned Feng Shi Bo, I think it's because it says that the owner of one of these knows 1 more spell. So I think even if you own 2, the way that it is worded is that if you own one of these, it doesn't say if you own 1 and then if you own 2 you get a different bonus. So I think you don't get to know 2 additional spells, I think, but I would like to see that clarified.
So much easier just to put the 0 to 1 per person on the back of that.
It would have been, but anyway, we'll see if that gets clarified, or you know, we'll just see if people can make heads or tails of it themselves. And that takes us to the end of the book, and we have been going for a while. So do you have any last thoughts on this book? Anything that you want to say to really wrap this up?
It is a combo breaker army which you're going to be very hard pressed to write lists for, but you're going to have a really, really fun time writing lists for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Tom, for joining me. Remind us again where we can find your models if people do want to buy stuff.
UK resin print on Etsy. So yeah, come on over. Even if there's stuff in the store that if there is things that you want which we don't have in the store, shoot me a message and then we'll do our very best to help you out.
Fantastic. Well, that was day 2 of the Cathay week. We'll be back tomorrow. I think I want to talk specifically about cannons and balloons. Maybe I dig into that for tomorrow's video. But you can expect to see a video or a live stream every day for the next additional 5 days after this goes out for Cathay week. Thank you for watching. Thank you for getting to the end of the video. If you've reached this point and you haven't already, I would really appreciate a like, a comment, a subscription if you haven't done those things. It just helps me get seen by more people, boost me up in the algorithm, all of the stuff that the YouTubers do like to say. If you would like to support me in my goal to become a full-time YouTuber, I would absolutely appreciate that. You can become a member below. There are various perks to those, name at the end of the videos, all that good stuff, but it also unlocks some VIP areas in Discord if you become a Longbeard or Ground Knight tier supporter. Those VIP sections are the only parts that are locked away in Discord. You don't have to be a member to join the Discord. I'd recommend that you should. We've got about 450, 500 people on there. It's a great place for discussion, a lot of fun. I do try and chime in as much as possible. And it's also where the Fix My List show lists are put, and also if you are one of the Ground Knight or Longbeard tier supporters, where you participate in choosing which list I play in the monthly Pick My List series.